Stick with me, because 𝒖💐 was finally done with her miserable life. Her stepmother's hand struck her face yet again. Rowena seemed to relish every single moment of pain she caused, but behind all that cruelty was nothing but pure jealousy. She hated that a girl she treated like a peasant still looked breathtaking in royal gowns. So, Rowena tore the silks off 𝒖💐. Seeing 𝒖💐 in rags filled the queen with a twisted sort of joy. She let out a cold, piercing laugh. The queen was determined to make her look worse than a common beggar. Locked in fear, 𝒖💐 couldn't find the strength to fight back. Tears stained her face, and she could only pray for the nightmare to end. Luckily, this beating was shorter than the usual ones. Back in her room, she refused to let another tear fall. Crying wouldn't save her, and it certainly wouldn't fix her life. She had to find a way out of this cursed kingdom before it swallowed her whole. At least she hadn't been sold as a mistress to some foreign lord. Hartsfield was her personal hell, but she had survived it since birth. Life had never been kind to her. She lived under the thumb of Queen Rowena, who wanted her dead. Then there was Rowena's cruel son, Alastair, who loved to mock her. But the worst was King Harold, her own father, who turned his back every time she was beaten or humiliated. She once begged him on her knees for mercy, but all he did was kick her aside like a stray dog. From that moment, 𝒖💐 vowed never to call him father again. He clearly never wanted her to begin with. 𝒖💐 wasn't a child of love. The king had taken her mother by force, and that was how 𝒖💐 was brought into this world. Her mother was the only person who ever truly loved her, until the day she was taken away by death. Now 𝒖💐 was alone, trapped in a royal court that saw her as nothing, but she wasn't about to give up just yet. She had a plan, a desperate and dangerous one. She knew she couldn't escape this gilded cage on her own. Now watch closely, because there's an ancient legend in this empire that she's about to bet her life on. On the winter's full moon, an ice palace appears where a mighty archon sleeps. Offer this spirit a rare sacrifice, and it will grant any wish. This wasn't just a bedtime story told to children. Everyone believed it. Once a year, the ghostly castle actually materialized in the frozen sky. And that's exactly where 𝒖💐 is headed. She is going to wake the archon herself. The palace is beautiful, but 𝒖💐 isn't sure if the legend is even real. Still, she has nothing left to lose. Without a second thought, our girl takes a blade and drives it into her own flesh. As her blood spills onto the white snow, she offers herself as the sacrifice to wake the sleeping monster. Her voice trembled as she begged the creature to show itself, but there was only the sound of the wind. After waiting in the cold, 𝒖💐 starts to lose hope. Maybe it really was just a foolish, desperate dream. But wait, do you notice that? It's the dead of winter, yet the scent of flowers is suddenly everywhere. Blue roses begin to bloom through the ice. 𝒖💐 freezes in terror, unsure of what is happening. Suddenly, someone grabs her from behind. It's a man she's never seen before. He doesn't just hold her. He starts to lick the fresh blood from her wound, looking completely satisfied. His glowing blue eyes are full of delight. He knows exactly who she is, the most precious sacrifice in the realm. She is a royal of Hartsfield, but she also carries the blood of the southern nomads. 𝒖💐 isn't even listening to him. She's in total shock, watching her deep wound vanish in an instant. It was as if she'd never been hurt. Realizing who he is, she quickly speaks her desperate wish. She wants to be the empress. She wants the power to drag her tormentors into the darkest pits of hell. The archon is amused by her request. He asks if she's truly prepared for the price. To grant this wish, he will take everything from her, but 𝒖💐 doesn't blink. She's already living in a nightmare, so she tells him to take it all, her body and her soul. The demon's grin widens. He's pleased. He pulls her close, his eyes burning with a dark hunger. Cold breath hits her neck before his fangs sink deep into her skin, whispering a deadly welcome. Welcome to hell, 𝒖💐. And trust me, you and I are going to love seeing her revenge unfold. The entire northern continent was under its rule, but because the land was so frozen, enemies never dared to attack. With no threats to face, the royal family gradually became lazy, arrogant, and deeply corrupt. All right, you and I are about to watch a forgotten princess reborn into a fallen house of corruption as House Dirton's nameless daughter, the young Princess Estelle. Estelle wakes the next morning feeling totally disoriented and lost. She can't explain how she got home after being trapped in that brutal blizzard out in the frozen plains last night. She prepares to start her day, but the second she looks out the window, her heart practically stops in her chest. This is impossible. The Frost Spire is actually standing there. Legend claims this ice castle only appears once a year under the full moon, vanishing like a dream before the sun rises. Why is it still glowing on the horizon? Then she spots her dagger nearby, stained red with her own fresh blood. A sudden chill hits her as the memories from last night finally come rushing back. She remembers it all. Now watch this part closely. She remembers the field of blue roses, their scent like a spell, and that mysterious man with the icy eyes who welcomed her to hell itself. Her breath hitches. What has she done? Suddenly, a sharp knock at her door breaks the heavy silence and startles her. The servants enter to prepare her for the day, and Estelle tries to keep her composure despite the panic. But her world stops when she sees a man standing right behind the maids, someone she knows immediately. He feels both like a stranger and a ghost from her past. Estelle freezes as he approaches her with a smirk. Walking with absolute confidence and eyes locked on hers, he introduces himself as Silas, her new personal attendant assigned to serve her from this day forward. Her knees nearly give out. That silver hair and those haunting blue eyes are unmistakable. It's him, the demon from the Frost Spire. This wasn't just a dream, it was a nightmare come true. She really woke the sleeping demon and formed a blood contract. Shaken, she tries to understand how any of this is possible. Her cruel stepmother would never give her help. That woman lives to see Estelle suffer in isolation. Still, the maids swear it's the truth. They claim the princess finally needed proper staff, so Silas was chosen. Nothing adds up. Since when does that wicked woman care about making Estelle's life any easier? Trust me, I was thinking the same thing. When does a princess get assigned a male attendant? This feels like a deadly trap. Before Estelle can say a word, Silas catches her gaze and flashes a faint, knowing smile. He raises a finger to his lips, silently telling her to stay quiet. Estelle obeys, enduring the maid's work in stony silence. Curiosity is burning her up inside. The second the servants leave the room, she spins around to confront him. She demands to know why the great demon of the Frost Spire is currently pretending to be a lowly servant. Silas looks absolutely delighted by her sudden fiery outburst. He smirks, claiming there is absolutely nothing he can't do, and this role is perfect for helping her achieve her deepest, darkest wish. Before she can even react, he strikes. In one smooth motion, he grabs her and pins her to the bed. She struggles to escape his cold, iron grip, but his voice stops her. He tells her not to fight. His eyes glow as he breathes in her scent like he's addicted. It's the sweet scent of those blue roses. Soon, the tension shifts just enough for them to sit together, sort of. Together is an understatement. Estelle is forced onto his lap, his arms wrapped tight around her like a cage. The air is thick. Terrified, she asks if he truly intends to grant the wish she made in the snow. He nods, his voice turning cold and serious as he confirms his dark intent. He promises to help her reclaim her stolen glory, step by step. Then, he leans in and whispers something even darker. There is a faster way. If she wants her throne immediately, he can make it happen by dawn. With a glint of dark amusement, he offers to fill the palace with the bloody corpses of the entire royal family by tomorrow morning. Estelle is completely horrified by Silas's bloodthirsty suggestion. She quickly tells him that's not what she wants. Her true desire is something much more wicked and calculated. She doesn't just want the throne. She wants to crush everyone who ever made her suffer in this palace. When she finally becomes the new empress, she wants her hands stained with the blood of her tormentors. Hearing her cold words only makes Silas feel more delighted. His eyes flash with excitement as he vows to do everything to make her the ruler of 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒈. But for him to make her wish come true, she must first become his master. It is a dangerous deal that she simply cannot take back. To seal their dark promise, he leans down and presses a lingering kiss against her chest. You and I just witnessed the start of a very dangerous bond. Estelle is terrified, but there's no turning back now. Ever wonder what happens after she becomes empress? What happens once her dark wish is finally granted? When she finally asks, Silas just gives a slow, wicked smile. His voice drops, warning her that once her dream comes true, their roles are going to flip completely. He will become the master, and she will belong solely to him. Her body, her blood, and even her soul will be his to claim. While they are caught in this twisted dance, the rest of the empire falls into total chaos. Cold winds blow. The ice castle, once hidden from the sun, now gleams in broad daylight. No one ever thought they would live to see such a legendary sight with their own eyes. Rumors spread like wildfire. Some whisper it is a grim warning that the end of the world is coming. Others say a brutal winter is coming. Stories are everywhere, but everyone agrees on one thing right now. The ice castle appearing is a terrible omen, and unfortunately for everyone, those rumors are not wrong. Inside the grand palace, the king and his ministers are struggling to keep their heads clear. The entire empire is in an uproar, and the ministers have gathered to beg the king to take immediate action. The royal family needs to say something to calm the masses. King Henry, however, looks absolutely exhausted. He rubs his temples in frustration. After years of peace, why did that cursed castle show up right now? What kind of sign is this? He has absolutely no idea what to do next. Then, out of nowhere, one of his ministers stands up and offers a bold suggestion. Instead of explaining anything, the royals should just declare the ice castle a good sign. The king blinks, turning toward the speaker. It is Count Belvoir. He calmly explains that if they call the castle a blessing, the terrifying rumors will just stop. The other ministers quickly agree that it is a brilliant idea. Even King Henry is impressed and praises the count for his wisdom. He issues a royal decree immediately. The ice castle is now a good omen. Of course, not everyone in the room is comfortable with this. Some ministers cannot help but whisper among themselves. After all, isn't that where the ice demon lives? They have no other choice, so the meeting finally ends. The ministers gather in groups, complaining softly about everything that just happened. But one man is in a hurry, Count Belvoir. He brushes off everyone trying to stop him for a chat. He claims he has something urgent to do. Now, here is where it gets interesting. Pay attention. The Count doesn't leave the palace. Instead, he slips quietly into a hidden room deep within the royal quarters. Inside, a beautiful woman waits for him. The moment she sees him, her eyes light up. She sends everyone away and runs into his arms. The two share a long, passionate kiss. When they part, Belvoir looks down with a sly smile, saying it has been far too long. After all, this woman is no stranger. She is the Empress herself, Adeline. Shocking, isn't it? But what comes next is worse. You and I saw a twist coming, but listen, he calls the prince his son. The Empress is cheating on the king, and the prince everyone thinks is royal. He is actually the Count's son. Adeline is just thankful that 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒈 inherited her own brown hair and brown eyes. If he had his real father's bright red hair, their secret would have been exposed long ago. This is exactly why Adeline hates Estelle. Her stepdaughter has the one thing her son can never possess. Those rare silver locks and pale green eyes, the true marks of royal blood. Thinking of Estelle sours her mood. When the Empress is angry, someone pays. She snaps for her maid and orders her to bring Estelle. The girl needs to be disciplined properly. Meanwhile, poor Estelle has no idea trouble is coming. She is too busy arguing with Silas again. She hates the idea of having him near. This mysterious man acting as her attendant makes her uneasy. You cannot stay here, she insists. It is improper for a man of unknown birth to serve her. But Silas is not bothered at all. He just gives that confident smile and tells her not to worry. Everything is already arranged. No one will think it is strange. Before she can argue, a knock comes. The queen's maid is there, inviting her to visit the queen. Silas's face darkens as he grabs her hand. Trust me, you and I are not ready for this. Now pay attention, because things are about to get dark. 𝒊𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒈 murmurs that it is time for Estelle to show him the people she wants dead. The room is silent. Estelle and 𝒊𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒈 are finally meeting with the queen. Seeing Count Belvoir, there is a shock. Estelle bows to the queen, having no clue about her trap, but the sovereign has no intention of being kind today. Right away, she starts mocking Estelle for bringing a strange man into her court. She hurls insults, calling her as shameless as her mother. Queen Beatrice is not finished yet, though, as she turns her cruel eyes towards 𝒊𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒈 to mock him too. But once she sees his face, his beauty leaves her completely speechless. The greedy queen is already plotting ways to take this man for herself. She has never desired anyone this much before. Even with her lover right there, the queen demands to know where this attendant came from and why he is with someone as low as Estelle. Estelle quickly explains that the man is just a new servant assigned to her. After staring at 𝒊𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒈 with pure greed, the queen dismisses them. Back in her chambers, Estelle finally feels a small sense of relief. It was her first meeting with the queen, and surprisingly, she escaped without being harmed. Now watch this. Estelle is annoyed thinking of how the queen eyed 𝒊𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒈. She turns to the demon, asking if his plan is to seduce the monarch. The demon does not deny it. He will use any dirty method if it gets results. Since he promised to make Estelle the empress, he will do whatever is necessary to make that a reality. He sees her worried expression and asks what is wrong. After all, she said that just killing them would not be enough. She wants them dragged to the deepest pits of hell. Estelle claims she does not care about his methods. However, as her servant, he must obey her every command. 𝒊𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒈 is unbothered, simply calling her master. That title makes her scowl. She tells him to stop calling her that and use princess instead. Yet, deep down, doubt is growing. This demon seems to take far too much pleasure in everything he does. She cannot figure him out or read his thoughts at all. Finally, she decides to just ask him directly. Why, she demands, are you really planning to seduce the queen? 𝒊𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒈 explains his plan patiently. To make Estelle the ruler, she needs allies. But first, they must weaken the queen's royal influence. The easiest path is to break the bond between Beatrice and Count Belvoir. Estelle shakes her head, calling that task completely impossible. Everyone in the kingdom knows Belvoir is the queen's lover. Even the king knows, though he chooses to ignore it. You saw that coming, right? Estelle says he might charm her, but Belvoir would never betray the queen. But 𝒊𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒈 is not discouraged. In fact, his smile grows wider. Who said I would be doing all the work? You will help me, princess. I want you to handle Count Belvoir yourself. Estelle stares in shock. What? You want me to seduce the count? Her face turns bright red. That is impossible. I am not even that attractive. 𝒊𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒈 bursts out laughing, amused by her mistake. He asks teasingly if he ever mentioned anything about seduction. Realizing what she implied, Estelle stammers, her face burning red as she tries to explain. The demon's tone softens. He tells her not to belittle herself. You are attractive, he says with total confidence. Attractive enough to wake a demon like me who has slept for centuries. Estelle shakes her head, insisting it is only her diva blood. But 𝒊𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒈 corrects her immediately. Other divas have tried to wake him before, and every single one failed. That leaves Estelle speechless. Long ago, the divas were a powerful tribe that lived in the distant desert lands. Their blood was said to heal any wound, no matter how deadly. But human greed eventually ruined them all. Their royal palace was destroyed by invaders hungry for power, leaving few survivors. Estelle is one of the very last. Her mother, Lady Alina, was the final princess of the diva line captured during the Great War. Since childhood, Alina told Estelle it was her duty to find the remaining clan members and reunite them. Her mother warned her to never reveal her identity. Only those of diva blood must know who she truly is. And yet, she just told 𝒊𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒈 the truth. But the demon does not care. Her bloodline and royal heritage mean absolutely nothing to him. That realization stings. Estelle feels strangely hollow, yet she is oddly relieved. She laughs bitterly, whispering that there is nothing special about her anyway, nothing charming or beautiful at all. 𝒊𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒈 frowns, clearly annoyed. "You really do not understand your own worth," he says sharply. He stands, eyes gleaming. "Come with me." Before Estelle can ask where, he grabs her hand, and in an instant the world blurs. They appear on the palace roof. "Trust me, you and I are going to want to see what happens next." "All right, you and I are about to see Sebastian try to impress a princess under the moon." He promises to take her to the Silver Vault, the capital's most exclusive tavern. It is more than just wine and music. This place is a den of spies and secrets where the elite trade forbidden information for gold. They arrive quickly as the streets glow with lantern light. Sebastian intends to uncover every secret about Count Sterling to help Alina later. Alina looks around with curiosity and asks if he has been here before. Before he can answer, guards stop them at the entrance, demanding passes. Sebastian does not even flinch at their cold threats. With a lazy snap of his fingers, the guards freeze in place like stone statues. Alina's eyes go wide with amazement. Sebastian laughs softly. "Do not be so easily impressed," he teases. "You will have to get used to this. Soon, seeing people bow before you will be your everyday reality." They walk deeper inside, entering a quiet room lined with ancient books. Sitting before them is a young boy, staring at them in total disbelief. His wide eyes dart between them before he grins mischievously. To Alina's shock, the first thing he says is that she looks tasty. Now, let's rewind a few minutes before they met this strange, mysterious child. Alina heard Sebastian promise that people would bow to her, but she wonders if this is all just a game. She sealed this contract with her very life, but to him, it might just be a bit of fun. Sebastian asks if she knows the owner of the Silver Vault. Alina is confused, saying that everyone in the kingdom knows her. Everyone knows Lady Marcella. The woman became famous throughout high society after the mysterious death of her wealthy husband. She is the most notorious widow in the land, because she spent her entire inheritance to construct this legendary tavern from the ground up. It would be impossible to find someone on the whole continent who has not heard of her scandalous reputation. Alina soon notices something is wrong. The path Sebastian takes is empty, and the place feels very strange and silent. Now watch this. Sebastian laughs, revealing the widow was just a tool to hide the truth. Alina is stunned as she enters. The room is filled with books pointing in every direction. She is still looking around when a voice from behind suddenly calls her tasty. The child is practically drooling as he gazes at her hungrily. While Alina is still confused, Sebastian teases the boy, asking if he is curious. The kid says being curious is his whole identity. He wants to understand everything. He walks over to Alina and immediately hugs her. He says she smells wonderful and asks Sebastian if he will share. Sebastian immediately pushes the naughty little brat away. The boy is annoyed. Why bring her here if he will not share? He is also confused why Sebastian is even awake right now. He must be planning trouble. Sebastian reveals Alina is his master, leaving the boy shocked. Why would a great demon serve a human? Even worse, they made a soul contract. The kid is stunned when Alina removes her cloak. He never knew she was the princess. Alina smiles and introduces herself to him. The child bows instantly. Alina mentions the rare book he is holding, and soon the two book lovers are deep in a nerdy discussion. After a long talk, the child is delighted with her. However, he cannot help but sniff her silver hair again. You see it too, right? Alina finally confirms her dark suspicions. He is definitely not human. The child laughs, admitting he made it far too obvious from the very beginning of their meeting. Since the secret is out, he must show his true form. The demon begins to transform and grow. Alina is terrified and hides behind Sebastian. They watch the demon change until he turns into a tall, imposing adult man. Smiling at Alina, he introduces himself as 𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒈 once again. Meet the true owner of the Silver Vault. 𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒈 is clearly the mischievous type, even joking about finding a way to die before suggesting Alina leave Sebastian and contract with him instead. Before he can finish, he is pinned to the floor by glowing blue roses tied around his body. Seeing Sebastian's cold glare, 𝒂𝒅 begs for mercy. He was just joking. Sebastian orders him to investigate Count Sterling and prepare the finest silk dresses and accessories for his new mistress. Before she leaves, 𝒂𝒂𝒅 promises the tavern will always welcome her. Back at home, Alina looks pale. Sebastian thinks it is just the side effects of her first teleportation. Alina is worried about something else, though. After confirming he owns the vault, she wonders why a powerful demon would hide among mere mortals. Why run a bar for secrets? She asks Sebastian for the truth. And that is where we leave it. He claims it is just a game, but she still wonders why humans are the target. Stick with me. We are about to see Silas drop a truth bomb about how demons harvest souls to survive. They are basically kings already. Silas, the oldest and most powerful of them all, actually gives Alara some rare praise. He never expected Rowena to reveal his demonic form to her, proving he truly trusts her now. It is a win, but he warns her greed is unpredictable. Alara wonders if she should fear him too. Silas just smiles. Taking the hand she places in his own, he leans down and asks exactly what she really thinks about him. Alara is rattled, wondering if this dangerous man is someone she should truly be wary of. He doesn't give a straight answer. Instead, he leans down for a kiss, his way of saying that she is absolutely irresistible to him. That massive ice castle caused total chaos and fear at first. But as time passed without any trouble, the entire northern kingdom just forgot about it. Rumors spread that the ice castle was a sign of divine blessing and glory, and it quickly became a proud, legendary symbol of the Valerius imperial family's power. Back in her chambers, Alara tries to focus on her book, but it is absolutely useless. No matter how many pages she turns, her mind is stuck on that kiss. She just can't stop complaining to herself. Why did she let a demon kiss her? He gave her an opening to run, yet she stayed right there. Pay attention here, because that deep, breath-stealing kiss was enough to make anyone feel completely embarrassed. Silas probably just wanted to prove she is charming enough to wake a demon who has slept for centuries. The worst part, after the kiss, he just turned around and went asleep. She has been restless ever since, while he is as calm as can be. It is so annoying. She curses him under her breath, but ever since that day, Silas has stayed busy, managing her palace and acting like a perfectly loyal servant. No idea how he did it, but those lazy maids are suddenly working harder than ever before. Her once filthy and neglected palace is slowly becoming a clean, beautiful home again. And even better, her wicked stepmother, Queen Isabella, hasn't come looking for her in ages. Usually, the queen summons her just to mock her whenever she is bored, but lately, the woman has been unusually quiet. Alara finds it incredibly suspicious. Part of her is happy to be left alone, but she simply cannot stop worrying. There is a nagging feeling in her gut about exactly why the queen is suddenly keeping her distance. You and I both know it's because of Silas. The queen didn't even try to hide her desire for him. Stealing a servant from a powerless princess would be the easiest thing in the world for a queen. Lost in her thoughts, Alara doesn't see the shadow creeping up until it is far too late. Suddenly, hands grab her from behind. She gasps, heart pounding, until she realizes it is just Silas. She wonders when he slipped in, getting nervous under the weight of his serious gaze. Before she can say a word, he kneels, takes her injured hand, and begins sucking the wound. She is dying of embarrassment. She tries to make him stop, but he won't listen until he is finally satisfied and lets go. Alara quickly changes the subject, asking where he has been and why he keeps disappearing for days at a time. Silas explains he has business to attend to, revealing he went to meet Count Julian. He then places a stunning blue necklace around her neck. Alara is stunned. A gift? No, she realizes quickly this must have something to do with the Count. Just as she suspected, this is a test. Silas is certain the Count will be drawn to that necklace. He is using it as bait, and Alara is starting to feel scared. She has no idea how far a bored demon like Silas will go. He would take whatever he wants without a single second thought for the consequences. He does things his own way, but she simply cannot let him run wild. She needs to find a way to keep him under her control. She has to find out what he truly wants before he starts another one of his dangerous games. The nobles are hosting a grand ball, but while everyone is having fun and dancing, Count Julian is feeling incredibly gloomy. Nobody here interests him. Perhaps it is because he is just too restless. Or maybe another woman has already stolen his heart. Let's look at the cheating couple's past. Julian first met Queen Isabella when he was young. Back then, he was deeply in love with someone else. They grew up together, their marriage arranged since birth. Both believed they would spend their entire lives side by side. But fate is cruel. You and I are about to see how the emperor's obsession changed everything. A ruthless king took her by force, completely ignoring that she was already promised to another man. The agony was simply too much for her to bear. When Count Arthur returned home, he found her cold and lifeless. Stick with me, because this grief quickly curdled into a dark, burning rage, and that is when Lady Isolde appeared. She also wanted the king to suffer for discarding her and fathering a child with Lady Alara's mother. Their shared hatred bound them together, and soon they became lovers and secret partners in a quest for vengeance. First, they targeted the royal lineage. Arthur managed this by maneuvering his own son, Alastair, into the role of crown prince. Even then, his fury burned bright. He craved enough power to utterly destroy the man who had ruined his world. Years passed as Arthur climbed the ranks. He gained everything: staggering wealth, absolute authority, and even the queen herself. Yet nothing brought him peace. Back in the present, Count Arthur is finished dwelling on the ghosts of his past. Now, his focus is entirely on a mysterious, blue-eyed servant recently seen lurking within the princess's garden palace. This man was clearly a high noble, strikingly handsome, and the queen hasn't summoned Arthur once since the moment she first saw him at court. The count is growing anxious. Perhaps he's bored of the queen, but this stranger's presence makes him feel very uneasy. Now pay attention. Something impossible catches his eye. A woman wearing a very familiar, sparkling necklace. His heart stops. That necklace belonged to his late lover. He had worked for months to buy that precious, treasured gift. Blinded by emotion, he corners the girl, demanding to know exactly how she came into possession of such a piece. But the woman remains perfectly calm, claiming she came specifically for him. They retreat to the balcony for some privacy. Arthur assumes she is just another social climber. With a smug grin, he decides to offer her a scandalous deal. She can spend the night in his bed, but only if she tells him the truth about that specific necklace. She laughs, asking if it truly means that much to him. He admits it does, but she just finds it amusing. He seems to believe everything will go his way. She questions again if the jewelry is truly that important to him. He confirms it is and asks for its return. She refuses, suggesting they play a little game with simple rules. He must guess her identity. He has only 3 chances and 3 clues. The winner takes whatever prize they desire. The count isn't interested in games, but the necklace is far too tempting to ignore. He agrees, and it begins. He fails the first round immediately. On his second attempt, he wonders if she is Princess Alara, then quickly stops. You and I both know the princess is different, or is she? He has never actually spoken to Alara before. He prepares for his final guess, but instead of a clue, the woman reveals she already knows his deepest desire. Amused, Arthur tells her to speak it aloud. Her answer leaves him breathless. She says he is hunting for the throne. Utterly shocked, Arthur denies it. He is loyal to the queen and considers himself her property. The thought of betrayal had never even crossed his mind. The woman warns him to start thinking differently if he truly wants to seize what he believes he deserves. Before he can find his voice, she smiles and whispers that they will be crossing paths again very, very soon. In a flash, she vanishes. It wasn't magic, just a clever teleportation device that whisked her away from the moonlit balcony. The two arrive in a deserted square. During the transport, her mask slips, and her true face is finally revealed. It is indeed Princess Alara. The bold, mysterious woman has suddenly reverted back to her usual, shy and quiet self. Alara asks if Sebastian had been watching her the entire time. He admits he was far too worried to leave. Alara is annoyed. She is certain he watched from the start, so why leave her to face the ballroom alone? It was her first time at such a massive event, and she had absolutely no idea how to behave properly. Because of the Queen, the only gatherings she ever attended were mandatory banquets within the cold palace walls. She was forced to dress like a servant, standing quietly in the corner while everyone ignored her. Nobody ever spoke to her. She had always lived in the shadows, but tonight was different. Wearing the exquisite clothes and jewelry Sebastian provided, she stood in the ballroom's center with every single eye on her. She was terrified at first, but as time passed, she loved it. No one realized she was the discarded princess. Finally, she could act freely. She knew exactly how to provoke Arthur after watching him rise to power for all those years. What she didn't realize was that this blue-eyed demon had been observing her every move from the very beginning. Now they are alone. Alara wonders why he brought her here. Did she make a terrible mistake? And trust me, you and I are about to see that she didn't fail. She did even better than expected. Stick with me. Lord Sebastian takes her face in his hands, knowing she finally understands how much he cares. He let her stand alone, so she could find the courage to face those arrogant highborn nobles. He wanted her to feel her own power. Then, with a smirk, he offers to dance as the night continues. As they move together, Alara feels a strange, glowing warmth blossoming deep within her chest. She whispers a soft complaint, worried she has forgotten every single step of the dance. Sebastian simply laughs, promising they will relearn the rhythm together under the magical and moonlit evening sky. Alara is stunned by his kindness, yet terrified that one day he might simply grow bored and stop caring. She tries to stay guarded and suspicious, but those walls crumble the very second he pulls her closer. Her heart races as he suggests they find something even more scandalous and fun to do. Alara admits he makes her feel strange inside. He promises she will not regret it, and that what comes next will be the finest moment of her day. Suddenly, he unfastens her necklace and steals a kiss. Alara descends into pure, frantic panic. The sensation is overwhelming. If she surrenders now, she will belong to him completely. She pushes him back, demanding they return to the ball. Sebastian just smiles and lets her go. Now pay attention here, because deep within the palace, Queen Isabella wakes up screaming from an incredibly dark and vivid nightmare. She had been dreaming of Sebastian, lost in a feverish passion until the very last second. She cannot understand why she craves a man whose name she does not even know, but she refuses to yield. Isabella is bound to House Blackwood. She bore their child and made him crown prince. Their plans cannot fall apart now. She falls back to sleep, unaware that the man from her dreams is standing right there. Sebastian stands there deeply amused. To him, humans are simple creatures full of fire that burns out quickly, and he loves playing with all their hidden desires. He was the true architect of the Queen's dream. Yet a new feeling troubles him. He hates it because emotions are only for the weak. Everything changed when he met the girl who shattered his eternal cycle of cold and loneliness. He wants to cherish his Princess Alara, to hold her close without ever breaking her spirit. As he gazes at the necklace, he can only think of one thing, hoping she will not push him away next time they meet. Alara feels stuck. She wanted to uncover the secrets of House Blackwood, but she only found the common gossip that everyone already knows. After the events of the ball, she knew she had to take charge. To stop Sebastian from dragging her around, Alara sat at her desk, scanning her list of nobles, desperately searching for anyone who might actually be brave enough to help her. She crossed out every single name loyal to the young crown prince. But looking back at the page, it was empty, just useless titles and no real allies. She considered buying secrets from Sila's, but the memory of that day still chills her blood. Seeing a child transform into a man in an instant was something beyond terrifying and unnatural. Suddenly, as she is lost in thought, someone sneaks up and pulls her dress laces tight. She gasps to find Sebastian smirking, asking what she is thinking. Alara cannot even meet his eyes. Her face is crimson. Since Sebastian arrived, he has taken over every single part of her life. You and I are thinking the same thing. Where can we find a man who handles hair and jewelry better than any palace maid? Curiously, Alara asks if there is anything he cannot do. He just smiles, saying probably not. When you have lived for eternity, you have plenty of time to master every possible skill. He gently brushes her earlobe, causing a fresh wave of heat to rush to her cheeks. She asks if his survival depends on shifting into a child. Sebastian explains it saves his energy. The smaller form requires less power. Alara just rolls her eyes at his constant, casual bragging. She catches herself smiling back at him and nearly faints. Why is she falling for this demon? Suddenly, Sebastian senses someone. The queen's head maid has arrived at the door to their chambers. A sharp knock follows. The maid announces that the queen demands their presence in the palace gardens. Alara freezes. Why is the queen suddenly calling for her now after all this silence? Trust me, you are going to want to see this meeting, because Sebastian promises that no one will ever dare touch her again. All right, you and I are jumping straight into a story of blood and betrayal. Not while I am here, he whispers, kissing her forehead. He promises they will face it together, but as Estelle enters the royal gardens, her heart instantly sinks. It is the crown prince, Ashelin, waiting there. Before she can even sit, he scolds her for being late, mocking her cold, tasteless, bitter tea. Only after she offers a deep bow does he permit her to sit, even pulling out her chair. Estelle is visibly trembling from pure nerves. He just smiles, claiming he has missed her presence lately. Estelle stays silent, wondering why the queen is not there. Ashelin just laughs, admitting he used his mother's name as a clever trap. He tells her there is nothing to fear, but Estelle feels a deep, cold sense of unease. This man is her half-brother, born only months after her, yet their lives were worlds apart. As the golden prince of the empire, he had everything. Meanwhile, she, the daughter of a mere servant, had nothing. Now pay attention, because this man is a monster. He treated her like a toy, once whipping her for weeks. Those physical scars never truly faded. Now, he is smiling as if they were a happy family. It is absolutely sickening. Suddenly, Ashelin notices the man standing behind her. Sadil. He sneers, asking if this is her new little servant. Rumors about this man are spreading fast. Estelle tries to play it off, but the prince just laughs. He mocks her for playing with the help, calling her a low-born commoner. In his eyes, it fits. Since she is the daughter of a slave, mixing with other servants is only natural for her. He brings up her mother, Ilana, mocking her for seducing the emperor. He claims Estelle is the exact same kind of dangerous enchantress. He claims to finally understand his father's obsession with her mother, because he now feels the same way for Estelle. What an absolute creep. Estelle feels sick, but Ashelin keeps rambling about how this warmth will not last. He warns that a frost is coming to freeze the whole continent, asking her how they will possibly survive. Estelle whispers that they must avoid it. The maniac laughs, suggesting they just lie low and play dead. That is the only way to survive. Leaning closer, he whispers that he is always here for her whenever the cold becomes too much. Estelle has finally had enough of him. She stands up to leave, but before she can move, Ashelin barks, asking who gave her permission to just walk away. Suddenly, he grabs his teacup and pours it directly over his own boots, pretending to be annoyed by the mess. You saw that, right? He looks her in the eye with a smirk, expecting her to clean the stain. Someone, please. Where's our male lead? Ashelin stares down at his ruined shoes with a cold, mocking grin on his face. He demands she get on her knees and lick the stain off his boots. Estelle freezes, her world falling apart. It is happening all over again. Just like before, nobody steps in to defend her. They never do. She has no choice. Despair fills her heart as she slowly begins to sink to her knees in a state of pure humiliation. But before she touches the ground, everything freezes. Time itself stops dead. Estelle's eyes widen in absolute, complete shock. She cannot move a muscle. It is as if she is trapped inside her own body, watching everything from afar. Then, a familiar voice cuts through the dead silence, scolding her with a sharp tone. It is 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒈. He mocks her for kneeling so easily, clearly displeased, before pulling her back to her feet. Before Estelle can even process what happened, his next words make her shiver with fear. He calmly asks if he should just kill everyone here. His eyes darken, his voice sounding smooth but absolutely deadly. He promises to erase every single person she never wants to see again. She only needs to say the word and wait until the throne is hers. For a moment, Estelle is tempted, so tempted. Everything could be so simple. With one single nod, all her pain and humiliation would vanish forever. She could finally and truly be free. But deep down, she knows this is not the way. Revenge should not be easy. She despises this royal family. Their cruelty and arrogance destroyed her and her mother, leaving behind deep wounds that will never truly heal up. Despite her hate, she cannot deny the truth. She still carries the royal name of Hartnan. That night, she sacrificed herself to the demon for a reason. She promised to become colder and more ruthless than any of them. If she carries their name, she will make sure the world fears her instead of offering pity. So she shakes her head, refusing his offer. She does not want it to end as simply and easily as that. 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒈 looks surprised, then bursts into laughter. Trust me, you and I are going to love seeing her rise. All right, you and I are diving into a world where a literal demon lord swears absolute loyalty to a human girl. She is his mistress, and he her devoted knight. He lives only to serve her. With that, the gears start turning. But suddenly, Prince Julian begins to choke, spitting up dark blood. The castle servants panic and scramble to his side. Silas watches the chaos with total calm. He even asks Alara if she enjoys a little bit of fun like this. Miles away from the palace turmoil, a gilded carriage stops before a massive estate. A mysterious noblewoman steps out into the light. This is Lady Marcella, the feared head of the Shadow Guild. She peels off her gloves, revealing a dark spider mark. Her attendant doesn't even blink at the sight. He's clearly seen it all as he begins his routine business reports. Word on the street is the crown prince fell deathly ill after that fateful encounter. Now the royal family is begging the Shadow Guild to find a cure for this mystery plague. Marcella finds it quite annoying. Scanning the royal scroll, she scoffs and tosses it back to her aide. She'll deal with those desperate royals whenever she feels like. Right now, she's got bigger things on her mind. Specifically her favorite little demon boy, Caspian, who's waiting for her. Finding him still stuck in the form of a child, she breaks into a wicked grin, mocking his size while pretending she can't see him. She looks around, tauntingly asking where that little boy is hiding. Now watch, this is where the dynamic gets interesting. He scowls, warning her that if she calls him cute one more time, he'll tell the whole kingdom that she literally devoured her husband. Marcella just laughs it off, completely unbothered. She's not about to waste her breath arguing with a pint-sized demon brat. Besides, he isn't lying, is he? Wait, hold on, did she actually eat her own husband? That is absolutely wild. Marcella licks her lips, as if savoring the memory of a delicious meal. She hums a low tune, sending a shiver down even a demon's spine. But she didn't come here just for games, it's time for business. She asks if it's true that Silas finally left his frozen fortress. Caspian nods, and Marcella's jaw drops. She can hardly believe the news. Why now? That floating citadel of his is causing absolute chaos. The entire kingdom has gone completely mad because of it. He tells her to slow down and ask one thing at a time. But Marcella is far too impatient for that. She glares, snapping that because of that cursed fortress, everything is collapsing. Nobles are currently barricading themselves inside their massive mansions. Trade routes are shut down and her gold is drying up. Caspian sighs, finally deciding it's time to explain everything. He warns her to brace herself so the truth doesn't hit too hard. Marcella just scoffs, claiming nothing could ever shock her. Well, except for the fact that 𝒉𝒂𝒎𝒅 took a human contractor. He stares at her intently, confirming her wild guess is exactly right. That's the reality. Marcella waits for the punchline, for him to admit he's joking, but he doesn't. She is completely stunned into silence. How is that even possible? He confirms it's true. The girl who bound him is none other than Princess 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒈 herself. Marcella stares blankly before letting out a loud, mocking laugh of total disbelief. She mocks 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒈 as a mere desert girl, shocked that someone so lowly could bind 𝒉𝒂𝒎𝒅. But Caspian's face suddenly turns sharp and dangerous. He defends the girl with surprising heat. Marcella finds his protectiveness weird, but since he won't talk, she shifts the topic. She mentions the Shadow Guild just got a royal request to heal the crown prince. The palace is truly desperate for help. Marcella knows the prince was always weak, but this time, the situation feels quite different. He's coughing blood and shivering even in heat. You and I both know who's behind this ice, don't we? She leans in, whispering that 𝒉𝒂𝒎𝒅 must be the cause. No doctor in the kingdom can fix this now. Honestly, good riddance to that prince. Marcella shakes her head, baffled. She can't wrap her brain around what this princess has that made the Ice Lord abandon his throne. He's burning the whole empire down for her sake. Even someone like Caspian hasn't escaped her influence. He's also firmly on Team Princess. Caspian grins, admitting he likes her because she looks absolutely delicious to a hungry demon. They've all sampled royal blood in the past. Even the high nobility haven't escaped their hungry fangs. Most royals are just sweet and nothing more, but 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒈 is special. Her scent is unlike anything they have ever smelled. She smells divine, but with a unique twist. The moment Caspian laid eyes on her, he wanted nothing more than to drain her dry. He tells Marcella she'll probably like the girl too, but Marcella isn't ready to play nice with some human girl yet. Suddenly, a voice cuts through their chat, agreeing with her. Both of them spin around in total shock. 𝒉𝒂𝒎𝒅 is standing right there, his presence freezing the air. Those cold blue eyes narrow as he speaks very softly. He isn't looking for any more rivals. 𝒉𝒂𝒎𝒅 gives his fellow demons a lethal warning. Stay far away from his precious 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒈. The mere thought of rivals makes him furious. Trust me, you'll want to see what happens next. All right, you and I are back with our princess, as she bows to Sutherland, who is only here to help his little master. He wants Marchioness Portia to take her under her wing and introduce her to high society. The capital is in total chaos. A royal decree has been sent across the entire kingdom, offering a massive reward to anyone who can heal the dying crown prince. Arthur's condition was now so grave that even the distant King Harold, who never cared for his heir, was growing desperate enough to search every corner of the world for a miracle cure. Since the prince was still trapped in his sick bed, the line of succession was already shifting, all thanks to Sutherland's casual little game. The impact of his move was so powerful it sent shockwaves through every hall of the Grand Palace. And Estelle had witnessed the whole thing unfold over the last few days. She knew Sutherland's kindness was likely just a passing whim, yet deep down, she desperately wished it would last forever. While lost in thought, a maid suddenly arrives with a letter. Estelle is stunned, since no one ever writes to her secluded palace. The maid reveals it is from Marchioness Portia. Now, Estelle is truly shocked. Why would the mistress of Moonlight Manor, a legendary wealthy widow, want her? The Marchioness was the undisputed queen of society. Every noble in the kingdom would pay a fortune just to be seen in her presence. Why would such a titan send a formal invitation to a forgotten princess? Estelle tells the maid to leave her alone. Alone, she decides she must go. It feels suspicious, but there is no logical reason for her to turn it down. Plus, she needs powerful allies, making this the perfect chance. The next morning, Estelle is ready to meet the famous Marchioness. Now watch this. Estelle is floored when she sees the carriage. Why is it so incredibly over the top? It is like Portia wants the entire city to know Estelle is her guest, but she is not going alone. Her loyal attendant is coming along, of course. Settling into the luxurious carriage, she keeps a close eye on Sutherland. He is far too composed. It is obvious that every single detail is going exactly according to his master plan. She had been ignored by the world for years. No one ever saw her as a real candidate for the throne. Even now, with Arthur sick and everyone debating the next ruler, the lords are only looking at the king's distant cousins. Not a single soul has considered her. What she needs is a way to force the public to notice her. Sutherland clearly knows this, stating they will use Portia to conquer the social world before they do anything else. It seems their current path is to build a massive network among the nobility. That is the fastest way to gain influence. Still, she wonders when Sutherland will stop these dangerous games. Sutherland asks if she is actually worried about the prince. Estelle quickly denies having any feelings for him. "Trust me, I was not expecting this." He leans in close and asks if she enjoys being teased by him. Estelle's face turns bright red at his proximity. She stammers out that he has completely misunderstood her. Sutherland stays silent and simply announces they have arrived. Stepping out, Estelle is shocked to find the Marchioness waiting at the door. They are greeted with a deep bow. Estelle is amazed to see the legendary woman up close. Before this, she had only seen her from a distance at crowded royal balls. Inside, Portia pours tea for them both. Suddenly, Estelle stops and directly asks the Marchioness if she is even human. Portia does not even flinch, laughing at how easily Estelle saw through her mask. She asks how she knew. As a master of etiquette, Portia would never serve tea to a mere servant first. Specifically, her very first cup was handed to Sutherland. She even tells Estelle to call her Vivian. Estelle tries calling her Madam, but the woman nearly faints in horror. She cannot let her sovereign's partner call her that. Looking at Estelle, Vivian finds her absolutely adorable and even delicious. Sutherland immediately gives Vivian a cold warning to control her instincts and stop being so reckless. Portia promises to behave, and Sutherland leaves them alone to handle some urgent business. He tells Estelle to enjoy her time with Vivian. Once he is gone, Portia stands and asks Estelle to follow. Portia leads her to a plain wall, but once she touches it, a secret door suddenly materializes out of nowhere. Estelle is blown away, but the real shock comes when the door swings open to reveal the room beyond. It is a breathtaking chamber, filled with the most beautiful dresses she has ever seen. And that is where we leave it. Vivian created this entire masterpiece just for her princess. All right, you and I are jumping into a story where Estelle is absolutely stunned by Marchioness Priscilla. Every single one of these breathtaking gowns belongs to Estelle. Our girl is shocked. Is this even real? Could these stunning dresses truly be hers? Priscilla pulls her close, revealing she personally crafted them using a very rare and legendary fabric. Hearing this, Estelle suddenly remembers the dark rumors surrounding the infamous Marchioness. They say she came from nothing, a commoner girl who used her otherworldly beauty to climb the ranks. She became the powerful Marchioness Priscilla, their scandalous marriage defying social standing and hailed as a tragic romantic epic. But the fairy tale ended fast. Her husband passed away just 1 year after the wedding from a mysterious and sudden illness. Strangely enough, the mourning nobles were more obsessed with the widow's exquisite dress than the dead Marquis himself. The court was desperate to find the source of her shimmering silk, but Priscilla simply called it a gift from God. Soon, any noble lucky enough to receive her silk became her loyal servant, making her the undisputed queen of high society. To this day, the origin of that cursed silk remains a mystery. Stay with me, because it gets darker. People eventually began calling the legendary material Priscilla's silk. Estelle asks if her own gown was woven from that same legendary silk. Vanessa confirms it is, finding the names humans give to her creations absolutely hilarious. She wonders if Estelle is brave enough to learn the truth behind the secret of the magical fabric. Estelle is dying to know, but she wonders if uncovering a demon's secret is actually a death sentence. Suddenly, a figure appears out of thin air right next to her. Estelle is nearly scared to death. The intruder casually reveals it's just spider silk, then quickly apologizes and hugs her leg to calm her down. Vanessa drops the act, admitting the dresses were indeed woven from her own monstrous spider silk. She explains that this human body is just a shell used to walk among the unsuspecting nobility. As she peels back her gloves, a terrifying giant spider looms behind her. This is Vanessa's true, monstrous form. You and I can see Estelle shaking, but the demons, they think her terror is absolutely adorable. Even the boy enjoys her fear. Estelle curses them silently, realizing she's trapped with these wicked, smiling devils. Vanessa explains that maintaining a human shape is exhausting, so they often let their true nature slip out to relax. She produces the silk in her spider form, and then weaves it into these magnificent, haunted fabrics. The boy brags that keeping a human form like his is the ultimate sign of a demon's true strength. But staying as an adult drains too much mana, which is a price he isn't willing to pay. He prefers his child form. Estelle's mind races to 𝑳𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒈, who remains in his powerful adult form constantly. Vanessa notes that 𝑳𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒈 is different. All the frost and biting winds of the north flow from him. Estelle is stunned. This sounds exactly like the ancient myth of how the Hartan Empire was founded. Ancient legends say the first emperor sold his soul to the ice god just to transform the frozen northern wasteland into a habitable home for humanity. Now she's truly terrified. 𝑳𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒈 is far more dangerous than any storybook monster she ever imagined. Suddenly, fabric is tossed over her head. Before she can move, Vanessa lunges forward with a pile of clothes. She's desperate to see Estelle play dress-up, but her manic energy sends chills down the poor girl's spine. Suddenly, the woman leaves the room. Estelle is confused, but Vanessa promises to return and tells her to wait. She orders the boy to help the princess. He grumbles that his tiny form makes assisting her impossible. Estelle knows what's coming and shuts her eyes tight. When she opens them, he's transformed into a tall man. He offers a polite apology for the shock, but his presence makes Estelle's blood run cold with dread. In his child form, he seems harmless, but this adult version radiates a suffocating, lethal malice that makes her entire body scream at her to run. She can't leave because he is the only one with the Moonshade Guild's forbidden knowledge. As Estelle changes, he asks why she chose this path to hell. She wants the crown at any cost. He calls her decision a tragedy, insisting she should have chosen him instead because 𝑳𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒈 will never act according to her foolish human wishes. She knows the risks already. She refuses to be anyone's puppet, which is why she needs the Moonshade Guild's secrets. He smiles, promising to give her every scrap of information she desires. But information has a price, and I can't wait to see what a poor princess with nothing left could possibly offer a demon. Stick with me. Estelle knows he craves her blood and she's ready to pay. Hearing this, he's absolutely thrilled. He flushes with excitement and takes her hand, swearing he will make the bite painless. He doesn't hesitate, sinking his teeth into her skin. Meanwhile, Estelle coldly reminds him to find powerful knights worthy of joining her noble faction. No matter their birth or rank, this man is acting like a child high on sugar. He begs Estelle to ask for more, anything at all. It doesn't have to be just secrets. Whatever she desires, he will do it. Suddenly, he pulls her close, wishing she were greedier. That way, he could feast on her blood to his heart's content. Finally, their dark exchange is complete. He promises to send a list of capable allies as soon as possible. But by sunset, Silas and Vivienne are nowhere to be found. Estelle returns to the palace alone. To her, Silas vanishing like this isn't even strange anymore. He's always been elusive, but Vivienne looked furious when she left. You have to wonder who she went to meet. Someone the Marchioness wouldn't dare ignore. That means a member of the royal family must have made an appearance. It must be the Queen. No matter which doctors they call, Prince Arthur's condition just won't improve. Estelle is certain the Queen came to Mooncrest seeking a cure, likely annoying Vivienne in the process. But she knows it's useless. This isn't a disease that mortal medicine can touch. Estelle feels a twinge of regret. Honestly, she wanted to thank Silas today. She knows he's the real reason Vivienne gave her that lavish dressing room. Regardless of his motives, she still wants to show her gratitude. Suddenly, the very man she's thinking of appears right before her. Silas seems pleased to find her waiting and leans in to gently kiss her forehead. She tries to thank him, but when she looks up, the overwhelming scent of blood hits her, strong and metallic. It smells like he's slaughtered a beast. Now, pay attention here. Silas suddenly asks how a thief should be punished. Estelle is completely confused by his words, but she answers him anyway. She says the punishment depends on the crime. Silas suddenly seizes her wrist, declaring that since she touched something belonging to him, she'll be disciplined as well. Estelle feels like this is all just a ridiculous misunderstanding. The property he's talking about is her. She refuses, telling him she doesn't belong to him just yet. She hasn't claimed the throne, so he has no rights over her. To Silas, that doesn't matter. In the end, she needs him. She is crushed, so this is the cold, hard reality of their relationship. To him, she was never a person with her own will, just a puppet for his amusement. Even though she knew this bond would lead to ruin, she still trusted him, hoping that one day they might share a real connection. Silas demands to know why she offered her blood. She replies that it was the only price for the information. Silas tells her the price was too high and begs her never to do it again. Estelle admits it was risky, but she thought fear would keep him in line. After all, Silas is far more powerful than that man. She stops herself. In the end, she's just his contractor and prize. Sighing, she tells him to punish her however he likes. Silas steps closer, catching her off guard. He asks her if he has ever truly mistreated her before. He's always given her the finest things. Seeing the look on his face, Estelle is left speechless. He suddenly leans down to kiss her. She tries to resist, but he doesn't listen. He only breaks the kiss when they are both breathless, just to lift her onto the desk. Staring down at her, he whispers that he might have to be a little harsh with her today. He begins to pleasure her as Estelle loses herself in the sensation. After it's over, she is completely exhausted. She falls asleep, so Silas gently places her in bed. Looking at her tired face, he slips out of the room. Because of his immense power, it looks like heavy snow will fall for a while. While our leads are busy, Marchioness Vivienne is having an absolute meltdown. Her perfect dressing room is completely destroyed. Every precious gown she collected for the princess is now stained with blood. After sending away the queen, who was hysterical over finding a cure for her son, she came back to the room only to find this absolute mess. And she never even got to see the cute princess in her new gown. Vivienne is livid. She immediately starts kicking the culprit, the half-dead man lying in a heap of bloody clothes. She knows this is his fault. He must have touched the princess. He doesn't deny it, he admits he did. Vivienne is stunned, telling him he's gone mad. Silas was merciful for once by not killing him. You and I know this is just the beginning. All right, stick with me, because the Duke only spared his life to put the princess on the throne. It is a miracle Lord Saddle didn't take his head right there. Lady Vienna ignores the wounded man, thinking instead about how tempting the princess is to touch, even if it brings certain death to her doorstep. He actually ignored his terror of the Duke just to get close to her. She is starting to wonder about the taste of the princess too. He tells her it was heavenly. He is still savoring the memory while licking his lips like a predator. Vienna warns him to cut it out. If he keeps this up, he will definitely end up dead. He needs to lose these dangerous thoughts about the royal blood. Roa promises to stop, but she knows he is lying. Secretly, she feels a rush of excitement too. Thanks to Lady Estelle, her dull eternal life is finally getting interesting, but the risks are getting higher by the second. Once they taste the princess's blood, there is no turning back. Estelle has no clue the demons are now starving for a piece of her. She just got the documents Roa promised. And wow, he was serious. He gathered every single person's weakness and put them on one list. Every noble secret, including their illicit lovers and hidden children. Every crime from the highest dukes to the minor barons was right there. But even though Estelle asked for this, right now, she is just completely drained. She has been reading for hours, and her vision is starting to blur from the strain. She drops the book, and her mind drifts to Lord Sadil, exactly like he said it would. The snow is falling heavily outside, and the world is freezing, but nothing is as cold as her own heart. Estelle is drowning in a silent, lonely despair. Why? Let's find out together. That madman made her feel like a queen, but never let her forget that her success only exists because she belongs to him like a piece of property. She can't shake the memory of being treated like his toy and the shameful things he forced her to do. But Estelle is finally done with being a victim. She refuses to live like this anymore. She has made a choice. She will use this forbidden list to take her power back. All she has to do is pick her marks, and she will never be a pawn in the Duke's game ever again. Maybe her thoughts called out to him because his voice suddenly echoes from behind. She turns, and there he is. She is fuming. While she is losing sleep and worrying, the man who ruined her last night and vanished seems perfectly fine. He acts like nothing happened. Her despair only grows deeper as she realizes she must have meant absolutely nothing to him in the end. But her own emotions are a mess. Anyone treated this way would be furious, yet she feels something else. Why is she relieved? Maybe it is because he is the only person who actually sees the real her. Before him, her world was empty and lonely. She used to bear it, but now, that loneliness feels like pure torture. She knows he is the reason. He filled her empty days, and now she can't imagine going back to that isolation. She wants to stay by his side even if he is the one who hurts her most. But now, back to business. Estelle tells him she has already chosen her targets. It's time to make her move, but the man isn't even pretending to listen to her plans. Instead, he orders her to come closer. He doesn't wait for an answer, grabbing her waist and pulling her onto his lap. I know what you're thinking, but he claims it's just so they can look at the list together. Right. Estelle is so frozen with nerves she can't even breathe, and that man has the nerve to ask what's wrong. He teases her, whispering that she looks like she's begging for him to touch her. When he bites her ear, Estelle knows she has to speak up now. She tells him she's just terrified he'll do something shameful to her again. Well, honey, he is already biting your ear. Sadil, realizing he has been caught in the act, finally has no choice but to let her go. Our leading lady immediately bolts to the other side of the table. Good luck trying to read from over there. Sadil stops playing around and they focus. He spots a name he finds interesting, but Estelle immediately refuses. The target is Ryan Rev, a servant of House Ashlyn. He was born a concubine's son, but he is incredibly ambitious. He was such a master with a blade that the house added him to their elite order despite his low birth. She believes the boy would never turn on his masters, but Sadil strongly disagrees. According to this list, his mother was actually a slave brought from the southern deserts. Estelle is absolutely floored by this. She is even more shocked to find his mother arrived in the capital at the same time as hers. Sadil reads her mind and tells her the boy likely carries 𝑩𝒍𝒂𝒎𝒅 blood. Estelle is thrilled because a grand banquet is coming soon. Princess Isla's birthday celebration usually lasts for an entire week. She is certain Ryan will show up at some point. It's the perfect chance to approach him, but she's worried. Since the crown prince is so ill, will the banquet even happen? And that's the next move. You and I are about to see her meet the grand scholar, 𝑩𝒍𝒂𝒎𝒅. All right, let's dive into a story where arch-scholar 𝑎𝒂𝒅 and his team are exploring the Frost Fortress. They just made a shocking discovery. This endless blizzard isn't falling from the clouds at all. It is erupting from inside the fortress itself. 𝒖𝒂𝒅 is stunned and demands the king be informed immediately. 𝒖𝒂𝒅 is exhausted, but his personal assistant has even more grim news to deliver. Prince Cedric's mysterious illness is worsening, and it seems directly linked to that cursed fortress of ice. Between the politics and the prince, 𝒖𝒂𝒅 is losing his mind. He decides a walk might clear his head. He is drained, but the hot-blooded young researchers following him are still full of energy. Pay attention here. The scholars are still arguing about whether a rift or a master created the fortress. When the shouting turns to shoving, 𝒂𝒊𝒅 slips away for some peace. Too bad he just walked into more trouble. He gets hopelessly lost and bumps into two strangers. One is clearly a noble lady based on her fine silks. But 𝒂𝒊𝒅 wonders why a high-ranking lady would have only a single bodyguard. Before he can think, his loud students catch up. Honestly, they are just as lost as their master. Since they are stuck, they approach the beautiful woman for help. That lady is, of course, our Princess 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒈. She gives the scholars a warm, elegant greeting. 𝒂𝒊𝒅 is completely taken aback. Most high nobles despise the citadel of wisdom, yet this young lady knows the exact traditional salute for a master scholar. How is that possible? The students are so mesmerized by her beauty that they completely freeze up. 𝒂𝒊𝒅 has to force them to bow while stammering apologies himself. Thankfully, the mysterious lady seems quite amused by them. Then she asks if he is Lord 𝒂𝒊𝒅 Silver, the grand scholar of the great citadel. He is shocked she recognized him. He has to know how she saw through his traveling gear. 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒈 points out that only the citadel's leader is permitted to wear sacred golden thread. She begins her charm offensive, praising his recent reports on the Frost Fortress as a true masterpiece. She has read every single one of his papers. 𝒂𝒊𝒅 is beaming, impressed by such a brilliant and educated mind. I know what you're thinking. His teacher instincts just kicked in. He imagines that with 5 years of training, this girl could become the greatest student the Citadel has ever seen. They already have several women at the academy, so she would fit right in. Who knows? Maybe one day she could even take his title. 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒈 offers to lead the lost scholars back to safety. The men are practically worshipping her now, throwing out endless compliments just for showing them the right path. 𝒂𝒊𝒅 is already offering rewards, but 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒈 isn't looking for gold or any kind of romantic favor. She has a different goal. She admits she has been fascinated by the Frost Fortress for many long years. All she wants is permission to visit him and discuss their shared research in person. 𝒂𝒊𝒅 couldn't be happier. He looks like he is about to burst with excitement right then. He tells 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒈 she is welcome anytime. Honestly, he is basically ready to kidnap her into his academy. Only then does he realize he never asked her name. He prays her family status isn't too lowly. He needs her to be a noble so she can enter the citadel easily. Sir, you should worry if your school is even worthy of her presence. After all, she is Princess 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒈 Valerius of Valoria. Someone check on those poor men. Their souls are practically leaving their bodies in shock. Meanwhile, 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒈 is safely back inside her royal palace. This meeting wasn't a coincidence. She had been planning this move for a while. The kingdom is on edge, thanks to the fortress and the prince's failing health. If the Citadel of Wisdom speaks out now, the entire political world would go up in flames. The high nobles might act superior, but 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒈 knows they can't survive without the scholars' vast knowledge. Their research is the only reason the Valorian Empire has advanced this far. 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒈 is determined to win them over. She needs powerful allies outside the reach of the palace. Just thinking about her victory makes her beam. Her knight, 𝒄𝒐𝒆, notices her smiling and asks what's so funny. 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒈 panics. She was just practicing her friendly face to win over the scholars, but she looks guilty. And that's where we leave it. She thinks he's mad and starts apologizing. Wild, right? Before 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒈 can overthink things, Julian cuts her off. He was just remembering how desperate those royal scholars were to meet her. Honestly, if she weren't a high princess, those old sages probably would have kidnapped her and locked her in their tower. Stick with me. You're about to see 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒈 realize how different her life could have been if she weren't a royal. Without this burning need for revenge, maybe becoming a scholar wouldn't have been such a bad life for her. She is still lost in thought when Julian mentions how much she used to adore books as a child. He recalls her lugging around massive tomes that were twice her size. 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒈 is stunned that he remembers something from so long ago. Wait, how could he possibly know that? Before she can question him further, he insists they head back to the manor immediately. However, what waits for them at the manor is even worse. A massive crowd from the Queen Mother's palace has gathered, and 𝒖🊌 has no idea why they're here. After some very cold greetings, they finally reveal the real reason they've come to her home. The Queen wants Julian. 𝒖🊌 is shocked. For the first time, she stands her ground and demands answers, but the servants stay silent. Looking at them, 𝒖🊌 knows even these servants realize how shameful and rude this whole situation really is. But pay attention now, because our girl is finally done playing nice with these people. She steps forward and tells them she might be a princess without a throne, but sending knights to drag away her attendant without permission, that is far too much. Fine. If the Queen wants an audience so badly, 𝒖🊌 will go along to pay her respects in person today. Just look at that wicked smile. But suddenly, 𝒖🊌 notices they are heading in a very strange direction. They are going toward Prince Alaric's chambers. Upon arrival, the maid announces that the princess has decided to join them as well. For a mother supposed to be grieving over her dying son's bedside, she looks way too ready for a party. The Queen is dressed in her finest jewelry. 𝒖🊌 finds it ridiculous until a terrifying thought hits. Don't tell me she actually dressed up just for a commoner like Julian. Surprisingly, the Queen isn't even bothered by the princess's sudden arrival at the sick room. She fakes a greeting, then claims she has private matters with Julian. Therefore, 𝒖🊌, a royal princess no less, must step outside immediately. A princess, ordered to wait outside. 𝒖🊌 is no longer that same naive little girl who would just obey. She confronts the Queen directly, demanding why her men were sent to seize her personal knight without any prior notice or explanation. If Julian did something wrong, it should be handled through her and by the laws of this palace first. You and I both know the Queen is fuming, but watch 𝒖🊌 stand her ground and demand respect. These are her people, after all. Frustrated, the Queen claims Julian committed a crime, but 𝒖🊌 is sharp. She demands to know exactly what he supposedly did, while the Queen refuses to say a word. She is his mistress, after all. The Queen finally snaps and screams at 𝒖🊌 to shut her mouth and listen. For once, the cruel woman looks weak, admitting Julian did nothing wrong. She simply needs to speak with him in private. Just like that, we see this arrogant queen beg 𝒖🊌 for a favor, even swearing on her royal name. She promises he'll return safely, but 𝒖🊌 isn't at ease. Even after leaving them alone, her mind is racing with dark, unsettling thoughts about what they're discussing. She hated leaving them alone. It's not that she's afraid the Queen will actually hurt him, though. That's not the issue. That's a joke. She's certain nobody on this entire continent could actually lay a finger on a man like Julian. No, what worries her is that hungry look the Queen was giving him. I see you, girl. She looked ready to devour your man whole. 𝒖🊌 knows he could just reject her, but the real question is, will he actually do it? She thought she finally understood the man, but now she isn't so sure about anything he thinks. Before she can exit, a maid suggests visiting the crown prince while she's nearby. 𝒖🊌 decides to go see him. She isn't worried about that scum, obviously. She just wants to see exactly how far their little magic prank has pushed him toward the edge. The first thing 𝒖🊌 notices upon entering the prince's chamber is the suffocating, sweltering heat hanging in the air. To keep the room this hot, they must have burned through every scrap of coal in the royal vaults. The maid whispers that he just fell asleep, but looking at him, he doesn't look warm at all. In fact, a deathly chill is radiating from his body. 𝒖🊌 is actually terrified of Julian's little prank now. It's a power that can literally control the life and death of any human being. Prince Alaric jolts awake, stunned to see 𝒖🊌 by his side. She calmly tells him she was just checking in. The prince sneers that if he died, she would probably be the happiest person in the whole kingdom to hear it. He pulls her close, warning her to pray for his life, because if he dies, he'll have her buried alive with him. Trust me, you and I are both creeped out by that final wish. Trust me, this mother will do anything to honor her son's final, tragic wish. Who is this sick monster? 𝒖🊌 gets nervous and tells him she is really praying for his recovery because if he disappears, she will also be kicked out. The prince is satisfied with her answer and tells her she is absolutely right. It is only because of his mercy that she lives in this palace, so she better stop those useless thoughts. It looks like Alara's worst fears are confirmed. There is nothing innocent about the queen's request for Lord Sila's. As soon as Alara leaves, the queen starts fantasizing about Sila's pleasuring her. Seeing they are alone, she tells him to move closer, ready to devour him, but Sila's is far from welcoming. As he approaches, Sila's tells the queen she has only two choices. First, he gives her the cure. 2, she can get on her knees and lick his foot. Even Isabella knows this is all wrong. First off, the crown prince's disease is something even the finest healers couldn't cure. So how could a mere servant claim to have a way to save him? And worse, this servant dares to ask the queen to lick his toes because of a little favor. Normally, Isabella would have had this arrogant servant dragged out immediately, but her body refuses to obey her. Watch this, she actually stands up and kneels. All right, you and I are diving into a moment where the queen's totally lost it. She's blushing, stammering, and just staring. The man of her dreams is standing right there, so close she could practically reach out and touch him. With zero dignity left, Queen Aya actually begs for his attention. Seriously, if Lord Saddle told her to lick his boots, she'd do it. She's completely obsessed. But meanwhile, over in the Crown Prince's chambers, Estelle is dealing with a nightmare of her own. Enter Prince Ashlan, an arrogant royal who thinks he's the only reason she hasn't been kicked out of the palace yet. Now watch this part carefully. Estelle hates to admit it, but he's right. Ever since her mother passed away. If Ashlan hadn't thrown a massive royal tantrum and forced her to stay, the queen would have sold her to some foreign duke. But Ashlan wasn't being kind. He just didn't want to lose his favorite new toy. So she stayed, trapped in the palace. But naturally, Estelle felt zero gratitude for Ashlan's interference. The only reason he kept her around was to torment her and play his twisted games whenever he felt like it. He treated her like a caged pet, even resorting to violence. With nobody to help her, she had to endure the palace's cruelty alone. Yet that monster still expects her to be thankful and constantly warns her to remember her place. Leaving his room, her wrists are red from his grip. As maids rush for medicine, her only thought is if Saddle is still with the queen. You and I saw that coming, right? There he is, waiting for her just down the hall. He looks more like a perfect marble statue than a man, always so composed, like nothing in this world could ever bother him. But one look at Estelle, and everything shifts. The man who seemed like a frozen iceberg finally starts to show a crack. Emotions start pouring through. Suddenly, this dangerous man smiles, and his entire focus is locked onto Estelle and only her. In that moment, she finally realizes what she wants. She needs to become someone truly useful to him. Even if the world treats her like garbage, she hopes he'll be the one exception. But Estelle still can't relax. She doesn't believe Queen Aya would let Saddle go that easily. Back in her room, she starts firing off questions. She wants every detail. Saddle denies anything happened, just saying the queen seemed to take a bit too much of a liking to him. Estelle still smells a rat. Stick with me, because something about the queen's behavior today was seriously off. All right, you and I are diving into a tense moment where Silas asks if she truly blames him for the queen's madness. Lady Estelle does not hold back, telling him straight up that he is capable of it, but Silas won't take the blame. He claims he only planted a tiny seed of desire. How it grew was on her, fueled by the queen's own endless greed. Her hunger for power was even more than Silas anticipated. Honestly, he never planned for things to spiral this far. Estelle gives him a cold warning, never try those tricks on her. Silas just laughs, reminding her she is his master. He swears that as a loyal servant, he would never. But Estelle isn't buying this master-servant act for 1 second. One day, Silas might just change his mind. And for some reason, that reality tastes like poison to her. Now pay attention here. The demon catches the sharp scent of medicine on her, and the mood shifts in an instant. Silas quickly guesses she visited Prince Julian, and Estelle does not even try to deny it. Silas looks displeased, demanding to know when she became close enough to Julian to visit him. Estelle stammers, saying she only wanted to confirm something. All right, stick with me as this jealous demon pulls his princess onto his lap, claiming her as his and only his. So why does she keep returning with the scent of other men on her? To him, that message is clear. She must be begging for another round. Estelle is speechless. How did their relationship even spiral into this mess? Silas is clearly just hunting for an excuse to tease her, only letting her go after she finally gives him a stern scolding. But Estelle has a mission. She needs him to teach her the secret to curing the crown prince's mysterious plague. While she plans her move, a subordinate informs the king that every single detail is finally prepared for the queen's grand birthday jubilee. Hearing the news only makes King Alaric feel more exhausted. His grand plan was to use the feast as a way to reveal the frost keep as a symbol of luck, showing off his family's ultimate power. But with Prince Alastair bedridden and dying, his entire legacy is falling apart before his eyes. Now pay attention. The only fix is a miracle cure, and the king is desperate enough to start drinking. He must be truly drowning his sorrows, because he actually starts thinking about the daughter he usually tries to ignore. He gave Estelle the royal name, even though she was the child of a commoner, officially recognizing her as true royalty. He did it all for just one reason, to finally see her mother smile, even if it was only for a fleeting moment. Yet, until the very end, he was only met with a cold, blank stare. That woman was a frozen statue who could not survive the brutal northern winters after living under the burning sun for years, eventually falling deathly ill. Even on her deathbed, she never showed him a single weakness. To the king, if Alina had just faked her love and submitted to him, he would have done absolutely anything for her. Their bond was doomed from the start. So when Alina's daughter begged on her knees for him to save her mother, he coldly ordered the child taken away. No matter how much little Estelle cried, he wouldn't even grant them a single log for the fire. Looking back now, King Alaric knows he wouldn't make those same cruel choices if he could do it all again. Regret is a heavy burden for the king, but rumors that the Marchioness of Ravenhurst is obsessed with his daughter snap him back to reality. He does not trust that woman for a second and wonders what kind of scheme she is cooking up now. You saw that coming, right? Suddenly, the very daughter he was just thinking about is announced to be visiting his royal study. Seeing Estelle standing there, the king demands to know exactly what she has been doing lately. But what does Estelle really want to tell him? That thanks to his cruel neglect, she actually managed to awaken the Shadow Lord of the Frost Keep. She claims everything is fine, but the king does not hide his curiosity, asking what is really going on between her and the Marchioness. Estelle finds this hilarious. He wonders why a powerful noble would associate with a nameless girl like her, but she calmly says they are just exchanging social greetings. The king is brutal, asking why she is even here. Surely she is not suddenly crawling back to him for some fatherly affection, right? Estelle does not flinch. She tells him straight out that she has the cure for the crown prince's sickness. However, it certainly is not for free. On the night of the queen's birthday, she must be officially recognized as a true princess of the realm. The king is confused, so she spells out her terms very clearly. She wants to stand proudly with the royals instead of hiding in a corner like a rat. The king suddenly notes she looks just like her mother. He gets suspicious. How does she have the cure, unless she was the one who poisoned him first? Estelle does not even blink. She simply asks if he really thinks she has the power to create a sickness that even the realm's best doctors cannot break. The king knows her hidden potential and decides to drop the subject for now. He does not care where the cure came from as long as his heir lives. He asks if she wants the throne. Our girl plays it safe, claiming she would never dare dream of taking the crown. He warns her not to cause trouble. Bringing her mother to the capital was already a noisy disaster he cannot repeat. Just thinking about it gives him a headache, but hearing this vile man insult her mother nearly drives Estelle mad. If he had sent one doctor or one kind word back then, things would be different. Her mother would not have died in such agony, but she hides her rage. The time for vengeance is not here yet. The king agrees. Lowborn or not, she carries the 𝒊𝒨𝒆 blood. Later, our lead falls into a deep dream. She is reliving the tragic night her mother passed away. Little Estelle begs her mother not to leave, but Alina promises they will stay together forever. And trust me, you and I won't ever forget her final, "I love you." Alara wakes up sobbing from a nightmare. Just as she breaks down, Caspian appears right at her side. His heart aches seeing her tears, and he is desperate to know what caused such sudden pain. Stick with me, because we are about to see a girl's worst memories get erased by a monster. Alara explains she dreamt of her mother's death, a dark memory triggered by meeting Lord Hastings that she desperately wants to forget. "Do not cry," Caspian softly commands. Alara whispers how grateful she is for his presence. Sometimes he feels like a guardian angel. She knows his true nature, but to her, he is her only savior. Her praise stirs something deep within him. Caspian leans down, closing the distance to steal a sudden, gentle kiss. He really is a sweetheart. That kiss wasn't just for comfort. It was a magical touch designed to wipe the nightmare from her mind. The next morning, our lead wakes up feeling like she had a very strange dream. But the details are blurry. Instead, a different vision lingers, one where she was weeping and alone, and Caspian held her close. Now pay attention, because this isn't just a dream, even if she thinks it is. She even remembers calling him her angel in that haze of sleep. That couldn't have actually happened, right? After a brief moment of panic, Alara leaves her bed to find Caspian waiting for her. Since the man acts completely normal, she convinces herself it was all a fantasy. "Sorry, girl." It wasn't. Back to business. After seeing the king, Caspian gave her a crimson orb. She just had to grind it into powder for Prince Arthur to drink. Simple as that, and his illness would vanish. Soon, word arrives that the prince is fully recovered. Overjoyed, King Alaric sends a letter promising to uphold his end of their secret bargain. Alara is thrilled. All she ever truly wanted was to finally have the king's undivided attention. With Arthur healthy, plans for the queen's grand birthday gala can finally move forward. The feast will last a week, and nobles are already scrambling to choose their dates. Everyone is desperate to find out when the most powerful families intend to show their faces at court. Alara is used to hiding in the shadows at these lavish events. She has always been an outcast, so imagine her shock when a massive flood of invitations and letters begins pouring into her modest palace. Only then does she realize her status is shifting. However, right now, our lead is regretting everything. Like other nobles, she could just announce her schedule, but Alara isn't quite in a position to be that bold yet. She is forced to reply to every letter by hand. You and I both know that is a total nightmare. She worries even more will arrive tomorrow. Finally, our girl hits her limit and slams her pen down in total frustration. She is exhausted, but there is simply no peace for her. A maid suddenly bursts into the study, shouting that Marchioness Genevieve of Ashford has arrived for an unannounced visit. Alara prepares a polite greeting, but the noblewoman immediately drops the act. She is a bit of a wild one, isn't she? Genevieve teases her, claiming she couldn't stay away, before pulling Alara into a suggestive embrace. She is actually here to help prepare for the gala. They had apparently agreed to get ready together. At this point, Alara can't even remember if she actually made such a promise to the woman. Our girl is breaking a sweat. She expected help, but not a surprise ambush from the Marchioness herself in her own home. Look at her maids. They are all gathered in the back, staring at Genevieve with stars in their eyes. Alara has to chase them away by ordering them to fetch some tea for their guest. Genevieve says she wanted to prove her sincerity by coming in person. She notices Caspian is missing and asks Alara where her assistant has gone. Hearing Alara calmly state she sent him to the library to fetch books nearly gives the Marchioness a heart attack. Of course, she laughs. Alara is truly bold to treat a shadow lord like an ordinary errand boy. Alara hasn't even told her the half of it. That man takes his role as her aide very seriously. His favorite hobbies, dressing her and brushing her hair. Running errands to the royal library seems to be a close second on his list. Well, maybe the Shadow Lord just enjoys the silence. Who really knows what goes on in his head? Only now does Alara realize how ridiculous it is. Sending the master of the frozen fortress to borrow library books is quite the change. Genevieve quickly gets clingy again. She grips Alara's hand, swearing to make her the absolute star of the entire gala. Alara just needs to trust her. To start, she begs the princess to visit the Silver Moon estate. Bringing that many gowns to the palace is impossible. Just the thought of the wardrobe has Alara nodding in agreement. But these happy plans trigger a wave of sad memories. Before, she never worried about her banquet attire. Not because she was loved, but because the queen would send her the most ragged, outdated rags to wear. You and I just saw a painful past, but trust me, those days are over for our girl. That is all past now. All right, you and I are about to see if our princess can survive the snakes of the high court. Vienne is flustered by the question. She quickly spins a story about an old book she wants to give Estelle soon. In another grand manner, Count Belvoir is having a rough time. He can't forget the mysterious lady who offered him the throne, but despite attending every noble banquet in the kingdom, visiting the Moonchad boutique and hunting for clues, all he finds are useless, empty rumors. He can only wait for her to show. Suddenly, his balcony door swings open and a young boy stands before him. Belvoir is so rattled he drops his glass. He frantically asks who the boy is. How did he get in? The child just smiles and leaps down, making the count collapse in fear. The little guy says he is here to grant a wish. He tells the count not to fear and name his deepest desire. Predictably, Belvoir admits he wants the crown. Roa asks if that is really all he needs. Wow, some people have no fear. Greedy Belvoir says he also wants the woman who told him to take the throne. He wants our girl. Suddenly, butterflies appear, swirling around the two of them. Now pay attention here. This is the moment a soul is sold for a crown. The butterflies begin to bite him, drinking his blood for the contract. But Belvoir feels no pain. His mind is filled with voices praising him, promising him everything his heart desires. He is hooked. He lets his blood stain the book, sealing the deal. Meanwhile, Estelle prepares for the life-changing banquet. It is a struggle, though. Why? Because Lady Vienne is incredibly hard to please. Nothing Estelle wears is good enough. Because of this, our girl visits the Moonchad boutique almost every single day. Still, Vienne keeps demanding dress changes. It is not until the day before the ball that she finally finds the perfect fit. Staring at the girl, she declares this banquet will be Estelle's coronation. The day the princess becomes the queen of society, Estelle is thrilled and thanks her friend. The woman brushes it off. She claims she didn't make Estelle this way, she just put the clothes on her. After all, no one becomes a queen overnight. This is real life, not a storybook. From dress to speech to the way she looks at people, a queen needs it all, and Estelle has it. Vienne just polished the diamond. Hearing this, our girl starts to blush. It is just too much for her. It is not her fault. Ever since her mother passed, no one has given her a real compliment. Well, almost no one. There is one other person, Sadel. Estelle is shocked she is thinking about that man again. Vienne doesn't notice the distraction. She wants to know who taught the princess such perfect, elegant manners. It is different from the northern customs, which makes it unique. Estelle reveals it was her mother who taught her everything. Things get a bit awkward, but Estelle doesn't mind. She is more worried about the missing little boy. Let's pause. We both know Vienne is hiding something big about the little guy's absence. Estelle knows Vienne is dodging the question. No matter how often she visits lately, she hasn't seen the child even once. Vienne tries to change the subject, but Estelle demands the truth. She claims she isn't worried, she just wants the deal kept. But deep down, she is genuinely scared. The truth is finally catching up. Roa in his child form is no match for a high demon. Vienne pulls the princess closer for a talk. Looking into her eyes, she gives a chilling warning. Trust no one in this palace. Estelle is stunned. Should she even be wary of Vienne? The woman says yes. Use people but never trust them. She warns that demons are far more dangerous than Estelle thinks, especially for a girl with a heart like hers. Heading home, Estelle is a bit hurt, but she tries to stay positive. She tells herself that Vienne only warned her because they have become such close friends. She knows getting close to demons is dangerous, but the lonely feeling is starting to crawl back. She had already started to see them as family. Estelle shakes the thought away. No time for that. Right now, she must focus on Lady Aya's grand birthday banquet starting tomorrow. To the royal family, it is just a show of power, but to Estelle, it is her chance to reclaim her throne. And that's where we leave it. Trust me, you and I are about to see the real battle begin. This way she will keep her mystery. 2 days is enough time to corner all her high society targets. Drum roll, please. You and I are finally at the banquet day, and Lady Alara finds the mirror hilarious. This is quite the lavish look for a princess that everyone once called abandoned. Our girl finally stands up and she looks stunning. It is time to make an entrance at the grand hall. While Alara takes her sweet time, Vivienne is about to die from stress. She has been waiting for the lady. She is so anxious that she starts counting the crystals on the ceiling. Has she ever been this desperate? Vivienne tries to keep her cool, but the thought of the sovereign punishing her for failing is pure nightmare fuel. All around the ballroom, the whispers start. Everyone is muttering about how late the princess is to the party. Some try to defend her, claiming she is simply waiting for Queen Althea to arrive out of pure respect. Since Lady Violetta is their leader, they demand her opinion. She is too worried to give them a real answer. The noble girls refuse to give up and ask about this sudden friendship with the princess. Suddenly, everyone wants a piece of her, even asking for tea invitations. Vivienne finds the whole thing absolutely pathetic. How did these people suddenly care about the girl they used to mock and call a common wasteland peasant? Now watch closely. The trumpets blare as the crown prince finally makes his grand descent down the ballroom stairs. Beside him walks Lady Enid of House Fewer. Vivienne is instantly bored and looks away from the generic couple. Since it is not the princess, she does not care. It is funny they found such a cheap lookalike. But whether that girl looks like Alara or not, it won't matter the moment the real princess arrives. With Alara wearing her latest masterpiece, Vivienne knows she is about to crush every other lady in the room. Suddenly a sound rings out. Alara has arrived, and just as we expected, the entire ballroom falls into a stunned silence. Too beautiful, simply too beautiful, everyone bow to the queen. Our lead is not bothered by the staring. She confidently walks toward Violetta and gives her a proper greeting. Once they realize it is the princess, the crowd rushes to shower her with fake praise and compliments. But the noise stops when the trumpets sound again. The king and queen have officially entered the gala. But what is more stunning is when the king calls Alara over and tells her to stand beside them. He invites her up to stand with him. Alara is not moved. After all, this man was willing to bury her achievement of finding a secret cure to save the prince. Keeping his word is the absolute least he can do. Alara is certain the king is only trying to see if she has pulled anyone else into her camp besides the Marchioness. She looks at Arthur standing next to her. He does not even look sick anymore. At most, he looks a bit thin. That is when she notices him standing next to Lady Enid. Seeing a woman with her same hair and eyes beside the prince makes her feel incredibly uneasy. Rumors of an engagement have been flying, but Arthur's silence means there is something he truly hates about it. The king starts his grand speech, but trust me, absolutely nobody is actually listening. Queen Althea is busy wondering what her husband is planning by bringing this girl to his side right now. Who knew this neglected girl would suddenly become the most talked-about person in the entire high society? Her rage boils over seeing the Marchioness of Mooncrest cheering for Alara from the ballroom floor. The princess is slowly slipping away. Before, she would have worn the old rags the queen sent over without saying a single word. But with the House of Moonchild backing her, that disgusting girl has become far too bold for her own good. Now everyone is curious. They want to know exactly how she won the favor of the legendary Marchioness. It kills the queen that, at her own birthday banquet, this wretch is stealing every single bit of attention. 𝒖🊌 stands alone in a corner. By custom, she is supposed to be the first one to begin the dance. No one is allowed to dance until she starts, but as usual, these nobles ignore the royal rules. 𝒖🊌 is not bothered. When Violetta asks, she says that rushing into things only leads to unnecessary trouble. Her only goal was to stand by the king, and she has already won that battle tonight. Seeing that she is not hurt, Violetta hugs her and heads back to the dance floor. Seeing them dance makes 𝒖🊌 remember her first time with Sir Sebastian. Trust me, our girl is feeling pretty frustrated right now. All right, let's dive into a story where 𝒖🊌 just cannot get this mysterious man out of her head, no matter what. But deep down, she is desperate for him to appear. After all, he is the only one who ever gave her a happy memory of a royal ball. She has no idea why, but Silas has been acting like a total ghost lately. Even this morning, he vanished again, leaving her alone in a dress he never even got to see. 𝒖🊌 is feeling pretty crushed. She tells herself he probably does not even care. After all, this banquet is only special to her. But pay attention here, just as she is sinking into despair, he is suddenly standing right in front of her. Talk about perfect timing, right? Even in simple clothes, he looks more striking than any of the lords covered in gold and jewels. Since nobody else notices him, she realizes he is using his powers. And she is right, suddenly, the whole world just stops. Time seems to have frozen once again as he walks toward her. When she asks why he is here, he just says it is only natural to be by her side. 𝒖🊌 is glowing. She really thought he would blow her off, but he actually showed up. He even says he knows this is an important moment for her. 𝒖🊌 knows that to an immortal like him, this is just another passing event in his long life. But even so, because it is important to her, he came to the palace just to celebrate by her side. Everything is just for her. And just like that day, he slowly bows and offers his hand for the first dance. How can she say no? It feels like she is being lured by a beautiful devil. She reaches out and grabs his hand. The two are sharing a romantic moment while everyone else is frozen. Honestly, can we get some love for the single people? Her eyes and heart are completely captured. When he whispers a compliment, she cannot help but blush. This is the look of a woman totally in love. Silas wants to know if she is happy. She always dreamed of this. Hearing the word wish triggers memories 𝒖🊌 had long since buried. After her mother passed, our girl was so alone. No one noticed her, and she barely spoke a word to anyone. To stay sane, she had to invent an imaginary friend in her mind. He was called Gabriel, a spirit with black wings and silver hair who lived in the palace library. For a lonely child like her, he was her only escape from reality. You and I both know the royal family was trash to her. She told all her secrets to that imaginary friend. She dreamed of flying high above the palace and having a room filled with gowns no one else could ever own. She wanted a treasure room of jewels and a grand ball where she would dance with a handsome prince in a perfect dress. They were just the naive, childish dreams that only a lonely little girl could think of. After listing those wishes endlessly, she always finished with the same request. Just like the spirits in her stories, she begged her friend to stay by her side forever. She even made a pinky promise with him. Is it possible he was actually real? Back in the present, 𝒖🊌 remembers those lonely days with a soft smile. Surviving that childhood was only possible because of her secret friend. She had completely forgotten him until this very moment. Well, it looks like she forgot someone else too. When she does not answer, Silas worries she hates the party. 𝒖🊌 tells him it is fine, but it is just a little too quiet in here. With a wave, Silas controls the crowd and forces them to dance. It is eerie because time is still frozen solid. Silas is literally manipulating hundreds of people at once, making them dance around the room like mindless wooden puppets. She finds the whole thing deeply disturbing. Her good mood is totally gone now. She realizes she is no different from them. She might be his master, but she is just another puppet to him. When he finally gets bored of her, She will just be another body endlessly dancing in a frozen moment. Still, 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒈 cannot control her heart. Despite everything, she is just happy that he actually came for her. Maybe if he were not so kind, it would be easier to accept she is nothing. Silas immediately feels the shift. His little master's mood has soured. Seeing her sad and distant, he does the one thing that will get her attention. 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒈 is absolutely stunned by the sudden kiss. He is glad she is looking at him again. She blushes, but Silas wants more and asks for another kiss. 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒈 cannot resist him and gives in. They start kissing like they are truly desperate for each other. Silas is getting greedy. Even with everyone frozen around them, he leans in and boldly tells 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒈 that he wants to do so much more than just kiss. But since she worked so hard to look beautiful, it would be a crime for him to ruin it all. He is set to leave, but you and I have to wonder, will he keep an eye on her? Julian doesn't answer but wants her opinion. Would she prefer he stayed? 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒈 wishes for so many things. If only time could freeze forever. If only this hollow banquet could last endlessly, but sadly, they both know better. She declines Julian's offer, and instantly, the crowd moves again as he vanishes. You and I need to see what happens next. 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒈 feels a bit empty now, so she turns down the noble ladies who try to engage her. Instead, she heads outside for fresh air. On the terrace, 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒈 tries her best to stay calm and collect herself. Peace is all she wants, but others have different plans. The queen has appeared, ready to corner her. Look at how twisted the queen's expression is. Trust me, trouble is coming. She definitely didn't come out here for a friendly chat. Seeing that pure jealousy in the woman's eyes, 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒈 starts to tremble all over again. She had promised herself before the ball that she wouldn't show weakness in front of Isabella. But that gaze is truly terrifying. Why would a queen who has everything be jealous of a girl with nothing? It's baffling. Isabella asks why 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒈 rejected the dress she had specifically prepared for her. Our girl explains that the Marchioness of Crestwood gifted her a new gown, so she had to wear it. Isabella calls her beautiful and asks about the maid who dressed her. 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒈 finally sees why the woman is furious. Julian is her guard, the one man the queen can't have. Watch closely because things are about to get ugly. While the maids helped, Julian was the one who really prepared everything she's wearing. He's the real stylist here. But she's not foolish enough to admit that. Turns out Isabella isn't as dim as she looks. Oops, sorry. She immediately realizes Julian was the one who dressed the princess. This isn't going to end well. With zero regard for her dignity, she starts screaming and lunging for 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒈's hair. She demands to know if Julian sent a maid to insult her. Poor 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒈 is completely lost right now. Suddenly, a voice rings out. The crown prince arrives and orders his mother to stop this madness at once. He pulls them apart and tells his mother to breathe. Then he turns on 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒈, demanding an explanation. Someone grabs her from behind. Trust me, you and I knew he wouldn't stay away for long. Julian appears, claiming he's been looking for her. He gently wraps his coat around her shaking shoulders. This makes Arthur furious. He demands to know how a low-ranking servant like Julian even got into this private garden. The arrogant queen, her mind warped by her own dark desires, claims Julian is only here for her. Even her son is shocked. Julian just ignores the rambling woman. He's ready to take 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒈 back inside. But do those two royals look like they're just going to let them leave? Arthur is beyond annoyed. How dare a commoner hold his head high before the crown prince? He's just like his mother. Drawing his sword, he prepares to strike, asking if Julian wants to lose his head. Prince, you should worry about yourself. The sword grazes Julian, and blood begins to drip. Arthur feels triumphant. He demands that the great Shadow Lord kneel and bow his head in submission. He wants an apology for this perceived rudeness. Terrified, 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒈 rushes forward to stop the violence. She begs for mercy on Julian's behalf, calling him a new servant who hasn't been trained properly yet. Girl, please remember this man is the Shadow Lord. Stop insulting him. This is honestly getting ridiculous. Her pleas fall on deaf ears. Arthur turns his blade on her, telling her to move or lose her head. Before he can strike, he makes a fatal mistake. He looks directly into Julian's eyes. Suddenly, Arthur turns his sword and stabs himself. Julian quickly covers Alara's eyes so she misses the gruesome sight. He then offers a fake apology, mentioning how cold it's getting. He asks Arthur for forgiveness. Next, we see the prince waking up in bed with a splitting headache. Why is he in his room? He remembers being at his mother's birthday banquet just a moment ago. He would have skipped the party if it wasn't mandatory. He was already annoyed, and Alara kept bothering him. The bother was how stunning she looked in that dress, while standing right next to the emperor. He wonders if the Marchioness helped her, or if his father has simply lost his mind lately. He recalls seeing her alone on the balcony and planned to confront her, but after that, everything is blank. Someone erased his memory. You and I know exactly who did it. All right, you and I are about to dive into a scandal that will shake the entire kingdom. Arthur glares at his guard, but one look at the steel blade brings his memories rushing back. Recall how he plunged that sword into himself. His gut churns in agony. From now on, just seeing a blade is pure trauma. Frantic, he orders Rowan to take the blade away immediately. While Arthur is spiraling, Sebastian and Alina have safely returned to their chambers. She is still dizzy from that sudden teleportation. Before she can process things, Sebastian offers a warm bath. But he is not just running the water, he is getting in too. Alina is totally flustered. She has always bathed alone, and being this close to Sebastian, it is beyond awkward. The man won't take no for an answer. That blood is stubborn, and he needs to check every inch for hidden wounds. With no choice, Alina reluctantly sheds her gown and slips into the warm bath. Her eyes drift to that massive gash on Sebastian's neck, but the man just stays silent, ignoring the pain. His cold stare tells her not to fret over trifles. Alina feels a pang of guilt, surprised to see that even a god can bleed. He explains that in this human form, his flesh is just as vulnerable as hers. Blood is only natural. But Sebastian's focus is solely on Alina. He wants to know if she was terrified. He needs to understand why. Now watch this part closely, because his dark idea of justice is a bit different from what you and I expect. I mean, let's be real. That man literally tried to kill someone. Thankfully, Sebastian is calm, telling her he actually held back. He doesn't even care that he was wounded. He is furious that the coward dared to threaten Alina and cut her hair. With a kiss, he admits he truly wanted to take Arthur's head. Alina is already sinking back into her own melancholy thoughts again. She worries that all this was just Sebastian being possessive of his favorite little toy. Sebastian, totally clueless, starts bragging about his mercy. He did not just spare Arthur, he even healed his wounds and erased every memory from that night. The only thing he has not said out loud is, "Please, give me a gold star." Alina finds his pride almost cute, but then she catches herself. Panic starts to set in. Is she losing her mind over this man like Alice did? Still, he was only trying to keep her safe. Her heart jumps as he climbs into the tub with her. He warns her, never try to protect him again. It sounds sweet, but if it happens again, he might lose control and let his dark side take over. Alina whispers a promise and begs him to let her go for a moment. He ignores her, carrying her to the bed instead. It looks like things are about to get very intimate, very fast. Let's pause here. You saw that too, right? Even a mighty god can be brought down by simple boredom. Cursed with immortality, every joy in Sebastian's world eventually withered away into nothingness. Existence became a gray fog until a deep slumber was his only escape. That was, until he found her. Watching her sleep, he realizes how fragile she truly is. Every single time he is with her, it feels like meeting her for the first time. It's all so fresh that he's lost. Is it because he's never felt anything like this before? He thought human emotions were child's play, but now he is struggling just to make her smile. He's always been patient, letting her lead the way in their strange little game. Today was no different, until a pack of low-born curs decided to ruin everything. Basking in her scent, he remembers something strange from the banquet. Arthur and King Henry smelled nothing alike. Usually, members of the same royal bloodline carry the exact same aura. Elena smells of the true imperial line, just like the king. But Arthur, there is zero royal blood in him. Instead, he reeks of the Duke of Beaufort. Sebastian has finally unraveled the dark truth. It's hilarious to him that the king unknowingly raised another man's son, and was even proud enough to name him the Crown Prince. Sebastian can already imagine King Henry's face when this bomb finally drops. This secret gives Elena the ultimate upper hand, but something still feels off to Sebastian. He founded the Night Watch to track human affairs, leaving Rowan in charge. Rowan was supposed to give him a full report of every scandal. Why stay silent? Boss, it looks like your subordinate has finally turned on you. And that's where we leave it. Trust me, you and I are going to want to see how he handles that little fool and his betrayal. All right, stick with me, because he is terrified that his actions might make Lady Estelle hate him. For the sake of keeping his lady by his side, he finally leaves. Sebastian has used up his patience today. By the next morning, rumors start flying after the Empress and Crown Prince mysteriously skip the second day's feast. The court finds it extremely suspicious, especially since the Empress had made such a massive scene, claiming she would stay longer than ever this year. Yet, she just vanished without a trace. Even the Emperor only lasted 10 minutes before departing. Since the princess is only attending later, the curious nobles decide to ask her tomorrow. But the young lady they all plan to interrogate is currently just waking up from her sleep. Honestly, she just wants to die. Her throat is parched and her entire body feels heavy and broken. That man expects her to attend the banquet tomorrow as if nothing happened. She is about to die. The man she is cursing enters with food, telling her to skip tomorrow and focus on resting tonight instead. Just looking at him, Lady Estelle is flooded with memories of their steamy night and starts blushing again. For her, the entire world has shifted since last night, but this man is still acting completely indifferent. He offers her the meal, but she feels disappointed seeing that his fiery passion has totally vanished. As she wallows in self-pity, Lord Sebastian suddenly suggests feeding her the food himself. Estelle nearly dies of shame. She refuses, insisting on doing it herself while her mind continues to race. Was that night meaningless to him? She truly believed they had finally opened their hearts to one another. Maybe it was just her imagination, but she can still sense that something between them is different now. The third day of the banquet arrives, and our girl looks like a literal angel in pure white. She is still incredibly sore under that gown, but the maids are already falling in love with her look. Trust me, you and I can both see why she is the talk of the town today. Still, she worries if Sir Rayan will even be willing to speak with her when the time comes. If he really is a 𝑩𝒍�𝒎𝒅, he must have realized that she carries the same blood in her veins. The fact that he hasn't tried to approach her means something is wrong, and the reason likely isn't positive. She truly fears their conversation might end in disaster. Before she can overthink again, her maid announces that Sir Rayan is actually here to see her in person. Apparently, the knight has something urgent to deliver, so he decided to come see her himself. Estelle doesn't buy it. A knight of his rank has staff for this. There is no reason to come. This must be an excuse to meet her. She quickly changes her dress and rushes to meet him. She finds him staring at the ice castle through the window, and he immediately senses her presence. He kneels in greeting, but when Estelle offers him some tea, the knight politely turns her down. He didn't come for a social visit, and besides, he is still currently on duty. It seems he really did just come to return an item, as he pulls out a beautiful hairpin. It is the one she lost on the first night, when Lady Alice was aggressively pulling on her hair. She is confused. Why would he be the one to find it and bring it back himself? She thanks him, but then asks the serious question. Why did he insist on seeing her? Pay attention, because this silence between them is saying way more than words ever could. He looks just like her mother. Since he stays silent, Lady Estelle decides to do the talking. She tells him that she was already planning to have a word during the feast. There has been something heavy on her mind that she has been meaning to ask. Sir Rayan finally speaks, admitting he also had things to confirm, which is why he came himself. Looking at her, he says he already knew she was a 𝒍𝒂𝒎𝒄. Estelle is stunned. She suspected he was aware, but she never expected him to be this blunt about it. Since he is being direct, she asks if he is also of the 𝒍𝒂𝒏 bloodline. If he knew the truth, why did he ignore her? Is he only curious about her connection to the Marchioness? Rayan gives her the cold truth. He has zero desire to be involved with her. And that's where we leave it. But trust me, you're going to want to see what happens next. All right, you and I are about to see Julian confront Alara about her deal with the blue-eyed demon. Alara is paralyzed with shock. How could he know? Did he witness that night on the palace balcony? She was certain Lord Malphaz wiped everyone's memory of that event. So, Julian knowing makes no sense. Then, Julian suddenly explodes. He screams at her for being reckless, demanding to know what she was thinking. He insists she dissolve the pact immediately. Only a fool would gamble their soul with such a creature. Julian seizes her shoulders, desperate to make her understand the gravity of the contract she just signed. He even invokes her late mother's memory, asking if she feels no shame in facing her legacy. Alara finally snaps. She throws his hands off and declares she knew exactly what the price would be. Julian arrogantly claims she is too young to understand, but Alara forces him to face the truth. She demands to know why. If this dark pact is so revolting, why didn't he try to stop her much sooner? He has been a knight of Astris for years. He knows exactly how corrupt and cruel the royal house can be. While she was breaking and struggling alone, where was he? He saw everything she was forced to endure. Now watch closely. She's about to list every moment he failed her while she was suffering. What gives him the right to question her? Julian is left speechless, his arguments falling apart. He offers an apology, admitting he truly acted out of line, but Julian hasn't given up yet. He is determined to find a way to break that contract. Alara stands firm, however. She rejects his help and refuses to tear up the demonic agreement. She will live her life exactly as he once wanted, by pretending they are total strangers. She tells him to stay out of her business for good. Then, her biggest fan, Violet, arrives, immediately gushing over the princess's absolute beauty. She cannot stop gushing over how incredible Alara looks in her new royal gown. Alara thanks her warmly. Violet reveals she spent hours choosing her dress just to match with the princess. Honestly, the only things missing from this scene are the literal love bubbles. But Violet senses Alara's lingering sadness. She knows the princess is hiding her true feelings. Alara feels guilty for being gloomy today. Violet doesn't mind, though. She has a new mission. She vows to make the princess smile and brings out a spiderweb charm to tease her with. It works. Alara smiles, admitting she feels nervous since today is the very last day. She thanks Violet for worrying, deciding to keep it a secret that Julian knows about her dark contract with Lord Malphaz. She fears what the demon might do if he finds out Julian remembers everything. Malphaz might kill Julian again. She falls into a spiral of doubt. Maybe Julian was actually right. No sane person would ever bargain with a demon, especially the last surviving heir of House Valerius. Perhaps that fueled Julian's rage, but she had no other choice. Every spark of hope had died. Trust me, you and I can see she only signed because all her hope had finally vanished. Suddenly, she asks Violet if a demonic pact can ever be broken. Violet pulls her close in comfort. Alara quickly plays it off as a random thought, claiming she was just curious. Violet admits there is a way. However, only a man named Rowan possesses that forbidden knowledge. Terrified she said the forbidden name, Violet stops talking and begs Alara never to mention this topic again, especially near Malphaz. Alara agrees, but feels deeply frustrated inside her soul. There is truly no one she can trust. The truth is becoming completely unbearable. Lord Alistair is in a state of total panic. No one knows where the castle came from. It has been days since the ice castle appeared, but Lord Alistair finds no answers in the archives. Only one book mentions Northumbria's ancient history, and even that sounds like a myth. He finds the ancient legends of their land completely ridiculous and unbelievable. The story says the founder entered a frozen, empty continent where no humans lived. Before long, the brutal, biting cold caused him to fall gravely ill and face his death. On the brink of death, he found a castle of ice inhabited by a blue-eyed demon. Desperate for life, the founder offered his own body to the dark demon. In return, the demon lifted the castle into the sky, and the snow ceased, melting the ice to create a land for humans. Thus, the Northumbria Empire was born in that frozen land. 𝒊𝒅 remains skeptical, unimpressed by such a dark legend. So what do you and I believe? Was it a miracle from the gods or a dark bargain? Let's dive into the mystery of the demon. Scholar Hessen is losing his mind because information on the ice castle is non-existent. He cannot afford to ignore even the craziest rumors. Worse, the emperor will surely demand answers once the royal banquet concludes. With zero progress to report, Hessen wishes he could just vanish and hide inside his arcane tower forever. The exhausted scholar finally gives up for the night, heading back to his chambers for some much-needed rest. Walking through the quiet palace halls, he crosses paths with someone unexpected. Hessen curses his abysmal luck once again. He stops to glance at the floating fortress, when suddenly, a ghostly figure appears right before his eyes. Terror sends him crashing to the floor, but wait, it is no spirit. He looks up at the man he accidentally hit. He is shocked to find it is actually the princess's own personal attendant. The last time he met the princess, he was so focused on stealing her away to his tower that he never properly looked at her attendant until right now. Suddenly, Hessen sees shimmering stars glowing all around the beautiful youth. But good looks are not enough. The scholar's heart is already claimed by the princess herself. He starts peeking behind 𝒊𝒊, desperately hoping the princess is lurking somewhere in the shadows nearby. Failing to see her, he begins pestering 𝒊𝒊 about her schedule. "Old man, you are actually blushing right now." He is ready to ambush her, asking 𝒊𝒊 when she visits the library just so he can lie in wait. Now pay attention. Imagine having to listen to some old man planning to steal your lady. But the attendant did not just appear in the dead of night to scare him. Our male lead is actually here to ask about the imperial bloodline ceremony. Hessen is stunned. As the name implies, it is a ritual used only to prove royal lineage. Long ago, the Hartland family used it whenever women claimed to be carrying a child for the emperor. Once the child was born, the rite would confirm if the emperor was truly the father. It requires a rare medicine that reacts to blood. Since it is incredibly difficult to produce, the ritual is almost never seen. Hessen confirms it exists, but notes there is zero need for such a thing in the current royal household. It is for cases where an emperor denies paternity. Now that 𝒊𝒊 knows the truth, his secret plan can begin. But first, he politely walks the scholar back to his room. The whole way, Hessen grumbles about his failing research on that castle. Honestly, he is getting absolutely nowhere with it. The floating fortress is a nightmare. There is nothing they can do. It seems completely impossible to destroy. Historical records say past rulers attacked it with heavy weaponry, but the castle did not suffer a single scratch. Plus, the emperor's lie about it being a divine blessing makes an attack politically impossible now. Hessen's only hope is to make it vanish or find proof that it really is a gift from the heavens. Anything to save his neck. You and I can see the poor man is dying of stress, while the actual owner walks right beside him. The only other solution Hessen can imagine is bringing the ice castle down to earth. Lowering it would finally make the fearful citizens feel much safer. It would make research easier too, but its presence in the sky keeps everyone in the kingdom on edge. Perhaps our demon lord feels a spark of guilt as he considers grounding the fortress, but then again, he is still hesitant. Hessen has no clue who he is talking to and is just annoyed. How can they move a flying castle? Already stressed, the old scholar gets even more irritated when he looks at the young man's strange outfit. In this freezing weather, the boy has no coat on and even left his shirt half unbuttoned. Truly bizarre. Hessen assumes the poor lad is being mistreated by the palace and even considers speaking up for him. Seeing the boy's innocent smile, Hessen is convinced he is right. The poor, defenseless soul. He decides the other servants must be jealous of his handsome looks and are bullying him. Hessen's fatherly instincts are reaching a boiling point. 𝒍𝒊 plays the role of a delicate flower perfectly, simply smiling and saying he forgot his cloak. And just like that, the fatherly love dies. Now he stares at him like he is a complete monster, wondering how on earth anyone could possibly dress like this in the middle of a freezing cold night. The demon lord realizes his mistake and vows to wear a coat next time, thanking Hessen for the wise advice. The scholar is baffled. Watching him walk away, he concludes that the attendant is one strange fellow. Trust me, you and I need to watch this. A massive rebellion has just broken out while the emperor was busy working late into the night to sign documents. Trust me, you're about to see a king with absolutely zero mercy. The king ruthlessly mocks them, saying that torching an entire village last time clearly wasn't a big enough lesson. This king is as wicked as he is cowardly. Why? Because everything traces back to the cursed lands of Medisha. It's the deadly divide between the two continents. Tucked right on the border, Medisha is a nightmare forest that shifts and breathes like a living, hungry beast. Inside, it's crawling with bizarre, twisted creatures. The place is a literal maze, where only the bravest knights or the greediest merchants would dare to enter. Out of the 100% who enter, only 1% survive. This is where the king's cruelty shines. Villages near the Medisha border are constantly ripped apart by the horrors living in the woods. But no matter how much they begged for help, King 𝒊𝒂𝒅 refused to lift a single finger. Forced into a corner, the villages rebel, only for the king to send his knights to slaughter every single soul there. You and I are watching a king destroy his own land. His excuse: it's cheaper to send an army to kill them than to rebuild the border walls. Can someone please throw this man into the forest? Once again, he's planning to wipe out these innocent souls. He even demands that their heads be displayed on pikes in the streets as a brutal warning. Before his advisor leaves, he announces that Queen Alara is here. 𝒊𝒂𝒅 is completely stunned by this. His wife skipped the grand ball he threw and had been locked away in her own chambers for days. He wonders what her game is, but he's truly horrified when he sees her. His wife looks like she's wasting away from some terrible drug. And she definitely is. Even in front of him, Alara mutters about why her beloved won't visit her dreams anymore. Let me guess, she's totally obsessed with Sela's. 𝒊𝒂𝒅 is annoyed, asking if she's really here to talk about dreams, but Alara's mind is made up. With a twisted look, she tells the king she wants the princess's personal manservant. Hearing his own queen beg for a lowly servant from the princess's court, he finds it hilarious. He ignored her string of lovers and her long affair with Count Sterling, but this is different. She actually thinks she can walk in here and boldly demand a servant. He never minded her messy secret affairs. After all, he was bed-hopping with plenty of women himself, but for her to lose her dignity over a servant like this, she's clearly lost her mind. The queen has no clue what he's thinking and starts describing the servant in detail. Left with no choice, 𝒊𝒂𝒅 promises to help, then coldly tells her to get out. Now pay attention here. As wicked as the king is, he's actually smart enough to notice how submissive Alara became just for a promise to fetch her a servant. The fact that she's asking for his help, instead of handling it herself, leads the king to one very obvious conclusion. She's terrified of that man hating her. The king finds it pathetic. An empress afraid of being hated by a common servant. It's simply laughable. He thinks he's going crazy too, but since the princess has been acting strange lately, he'll be keeping a very close eye on her. Our master and servant duo have no idea they're being plotted against. While the banquet rages on, Princess Alina has no time for parties. She's simply too busy. Looking at the mountain of letters stacked higher than her desk, Alina is honestly ready to burst into tears. Still, she has to sift through all the information coming in. She's worried about him, but she can't forget Victor's warning, never trust the dark beings. But how can she stay away when this shadow sovereign keeps sneaking into her chambers every single night to claim her for himself? He appears, and they share another intense moment in the study before he finally carries her back to bed. She has no clue why he's so restless, but lately, he's been acting like a predator on the hunt, stalking her every single move now. Whether she's just drying her hair or sitting knee-deep in documents, he just suddenly turns completely beastly on her. The culprit offers to bathe her, and Alina agrees. She isn't the shy girl she once was. Ever since that first night, they've been together several times. So what do you and I make of this? A burning passion with something missing. Wild, right? All right, you and I are about to watch a princess realize that no matter how much she reveals to her mysterious knight, Silas, he remains completely unshaken by her darkest secrets. Maybe that's why their connection still feels incomplete. After dressing Alara up, the two of them head out for a quiet stroll through the royal gardens. But during their walk, they stumble upon a very suspicious figure lurking around the palace grounds. Can someone explain why the king is acting like a common thief? Even Alara finds it suspicious, because it's strange for him to be out at this late hour. Plus, he just happens to be wandering through the princess's private garden. This is definitely not a coincidence. King Alaric isn't worried about his daughter's suspicions. Instead, he focuses entirely on Silas, demanding the man lift his head so he can see those blue eyes. Now, Alaric is certain this is the man his wife mentioned. He suddenly asks Silas if he was the one who attended to the queen last night. Now pay attention, because being accused of sneaking into the queen's chambers, that is an instant death sentence. Silas insists his only master, the princess, is right here, but Alaric doesn't believe a word of it. He doesn't think his queen would act alone. When Silas keeps denying it, the king asks if he's challenging him. Silas remains firm. Looking at the handsome valet, Alaric finally understands why the queen is losing her mind over him. Not only is Silas breathtakingly handsome, but he shows zero fear while standing before the most powerful man alive. The king finds him incredibly arrogant, yet he's curious why Silas would ever turn down the queen's advances. After all, being the queen's favorite is a high honor. Why choose to stay a lowly servant for a princess? Alara is already hurt by these words, but Silas immediately steps up to defend her. He apologizes and tells the king he is perfectly satisfied with his current position. Alaric thinks Silas is just playing hard to get and demands the truth, but the valet's insistence that he is satisfied leaves the king totally confused. The demon lord proudly declares that the princess is the only reason for his existence. Hearing this, Alara starts blushing instantly. The king is actually impressed by such loyalty and starts laughing. Alara is dying of embarrassment now. She's certain the king has completely misunderstood this as Silas being head over heels in love with her. She blames Silas for creating such a massive misunderstanding. To be fair, although he isn't wrong, if they hadn't made that blood contract, he never would have had a reason to live among humans. Still, she finds his boldness shameless. The king then asks Silas to leave so he can speak with Alara alone. Surprisingly, Silas doesn't move a muscle. He only leaves once Alara gives him the nod to go. You and I can both see how crazy it is for a common servant to ignore a king's direct order like that. The father and daughter head inside to talk. Alaric is pleased to see that the place hasn't changed a bit. He claims Alara must have taken great care of the estate, since nothing has changed here since her mother died. Alara is stunned to hear him say this, considering he practically abandoned her here with no support at all. It was actually Silas who brought the palace back to life. She's disgusted when he mentions her mother's greenhouse. She knows the king saw the queen tear it down after her mother died. His casual tone now makes her sick. The king finally reveals the reason for his visit. It seems the queen has requested Alara's handsome servant. He doesn't want any drama in the palace, so he tells Alara she can handle the request however she likes. Even though he says he won't interfere, he still advises her to give 𝒉𝒂𝒎𝒆 to the queen as a gift. Seeing 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒈's silence, he asks if she's keeping the servant because he has become her secret lover. 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒈 isn't ready to let 𝒉𝒂𝒎𝒆 go, especially to her enemy. She asks the king what else she can offer. She's willing to pay any price necessary just to keep 𝒉𝒂𝒎𝒆 by her side. The king threatens 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒈, reminding her she is absolutely nothing and warning her not to get arrogant just because of the recent banquet. If she wants to keep her title, she must learn to obey. He doesn't stop there, cruelly mocking her for having lowly commoner blood. He warns her to start behaving like a member of the royal family and stop letting her lowly status show. 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒈 knows exactly what she must do to survive in this cursed and toxic palace. She's supposed to send 𝒉𝒂𝒎𝒆 straight to Queen Seraphina's chambers, but she refuses to lose him. Knowing 𝒉𝒂𝒎𝒆 would never submit to that woman, 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒈 can't bear the thought of him serving anyone else. Stick with me, because to save her knight, 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒈 just volunteered for a suicide mission at the abandoned Iron Border. All right, you and I are about to see how far Estelle will go to protect 𝒉𝒂𝒎𝒆, even leaving her home. She is playing the long game. Staying in the palace means she is trapped, unable to build the alliances and power she desperately needs. But out there, beyond the walls, she can finally recruit her own private army. Our clever girl tries to convince the king she is doing it for his own good, since nobody in the citadel likes her presence. She is willing to leave and personally suppress the rebellion. The king mocks her, asking if a girl like her could actually handle a bloody revolt. Estelle keeps her poker face. She cannot let him suspect she is planning to build a rival faction to challenge the royal bloodline. She plays the part of a coward just wanting to flee. For the second time since her mother died, she begs her father for freedom. Word of the princess's sudden departure spreads through the capital like wildfire. The king could not care less about his daughter leaving, but the crown prince, that is a completely different story. Now watch this. Prince 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒈 hears the news and absolutely loses it, turning violent right in front of the king. He storms into the royal office, screaming at his father. He demands to know why the king is sending his stepsister away. He reminds the king this was never part of their arrangement. The sovereign coldly tells his son he is not a child anymore. The days of needing the princess as a toy are over. With no excuses left to keep her, 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒈 leaves the office, but his mind is still troubled. Even the ancient lords are thrilled, eager to kick Estelle out of the palace as fast as they can. These lords always despised having a princess around who shares the blood of a common servant. Since they finally have a chance to exile her, they are more than happy to take it. 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒈 tries to convince himself this is for the best, but he is still fuming. On his way back to his palace, a servant stops him and says the queen mother wants to see him. Suspecting nothing, 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒈 follows the maid deep into the queen's private residence. He is curious to see his mother. She has been suspiciously quiet lately, and he wonders what scheme she is cooking up now. But when the maid leads him to his mother's bedroom instead of the usual visiting room, his instincts tell him something is very wrong. He is right. Instead of his mother, he finds Earl Belvoir waiting, the man his mother has been seeing for years. The whole capital knows about their scandalous affair, but the prince is still shocked to see the man in her bedroom. They are political allies, sure, but they have never been close. The Earl is just the queen's lover, nothing more to him. Usually, they would only swap a few cold words whenever Belvoir visited the palace for his secret meetings. Just like you and me, 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒈 is confused why the Earl is here, especially since the queen is supposedly asleep. But they aren't the only ones here. Suddenly, someone steps out from the shadows behind the queen's massive bed. Belvoir explains this stranger has been begging for a meeting with the crown prince, so he set this up for them. 𝒖𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒈 is disgusted, assuming this newcomer is just another one of his mother's low-life lovers. He lashes out at Belvoir for wasting his time, just to introduce him to the queen's latest boy toy. I don't know about him being a lover, but that man is definitely who the princess has been worried about. Turns out her fears were right. He is doing just fine, and even has the strength to laugh at the prince, who feels completely disrespected by him. The prince tries to threaten the demon, but the creature simply says he is here to offer his help. Our ignorant prince does not realize he's facing a demon. He keeps shouting for guards, but the unnatural silence of the palace finally makes him realize something is very wrong. The visitor is not bothered by the prince's drama. He tells the man to just shut up and listen. He claims he traveled all this way because he and 𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒈 actually share the exact same goal. The prince is finally ready to listen. Knowing how obsessed 𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒈 is with the princess, the guest is certain he will never let her leave. He reveals a twisted plan to keep the princess trapped within the palace walls forever. Since both men refuse to let her go, why not work together to keep her caged forever? 𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒈 is actually tempted by this. See, he has always had this dark, sick need for his stepsister to be by his side at all times. Even after he takes the throne, until the very day he dies, he believes she must be standing right by his side. He even wants her buried with him when he dies. Since everything in this palace belongs to him, that means the princess is his property too. What an absolute psychopath. Honestly, Estelle is now being hunted by 3 of the craziest men alive. Why would these 3 monsters decide that the best way to keep the princess is to drag her down into the deepest darkness? All because of their sick obsession. Poor Estelle has no idea the real nightmare is just beginning. And trust me, we are about to see it get worse. Her only loyal servant was just moved to the queen's residence. All right, you and I are about to dive into a heart-wrenching goodbye that changes everything. He swears his service to the Empress won't last long and promises he'll follow her to the border immediately, but she still won't say a word. 𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒈 dresses her one last time before the powerful Dark Lord actually drops to his knees for the woman he loves. Seeing her avoid his gaze, he reminds her that he must depart when the sun rises. Is she really going to keep pushing him away, instead of spending these final precious moments in each other's arms? Our Dark Lord doesn't want their final meeting to end on such a cold note, asking her if she truly plans to ignore him until the moment he leaves. But Alara is simply devastated, unable to stomach the idea of losing her man to the clutches of the Empress. Even worse, this dense man seems totally unbothered by the situation, forcing her to ask how he really feels about being torn away from her. 𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒈 finds her worry amusing, because the only way she could ever truly escape him is by fleeing the Northlands entirely. No matter where she hides, he will always be able to track her down. Only by crossing the Silver Reach and escaping to a different continent could she ever hope to be free of him. Trust me, those words are going to come back to haunt him, but for now, he's just whispering sweet lies. He has no idea that he just handed his young wife the perfect map to escape from him in the future. Alara feels much better once 𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒈 tells her the Empress's palace is nothing to fear, especially since he has his own secrets to uncover there. 𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒈 holds her tight and asks her to endure the coming loneliness, and though she tries to deny her feelings, he promises to visit her constantly. Feeling how desperately she clings to him, he asks if she really wants him to stay by her side. Deep down, Alara can't stand the thought of him leaving, but she eventually accepts it simply because she wants to honor his wishes. She tells him to follow his heart, and after one final kiss and a deep embrace, our favorite couple is parted. Meanwhile, 2 dangerous men are deep in a secret meeting. I'm talking about 𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒈 and the treacherous Duke Belmont. 𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒈 is currently busy explaining the dark mechanics of demonic contracts to Belmont, though his true motives remain a complete mystery. Essentially, for demons to survive, they must either devour human souls or bind themselves to mortals driven by intense, dark desires. Only then can they maintain a solid physical form and unleash their true, terrifying powers without any restrictions. He doesn't even hide his contempt, telling Belmont he is merely the perfect pawn because his desperation has rotted his soul. Naturally, once the Duke is useless, 𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒈 fully intends to discard him like trash. Luckily, 𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒈 has already caught on to these little games and wonders why 𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒈 would ever bother making a deal with Belmont. He is more than ready to figure out exactly what that treacherous little demon is plotting behind his back. After all, 𝒊𝒆 is unique. Since he stole a portion of 𝒖𝒊𝒅's power, he's likely far stronger than any average demon. Okay, you and I know our hero didn't just come here for tea. He's keeping a very close eye on things. He has his own dark reasons for visiting the capital, and the Empress herself rushes out to greet him the moment he arrives. She is wearing her finest silks and makeup, clearly trying to impress him. She looks nothing like the decaying woman we saw in the previous episode, but her joy vanishes when 𝒖𝒊𝒅 asks if she wants him to hate her. After dismissing her servants, she tries to apologize, but suddenly glowing blue roses appear and bind her body tightly. Yet even while trapped, the Empress wears that pathetic, love-struck expression, her face flushing a deep shade of red. 𝒖𝒊𝒅 is purely disgusted by her fall, unable to comprehend why humans are so easily broken by their own pathetic desires. A few whispers and a little temptation are all it takes for them to destroy themselves, well, with one major exception. He thinks of the one girl who stands apart, the one who never breaks, and the one who conquered his heart first. She would always accept his dark needs, but not once in all their time together did she ever desire him first. 𝒖𝒊𝒅 hates this change, especially since there was a time when her entire world revolved around him, and him alone. It turns out the imaginary celestial friend 𝒖𝒊𝒅 remembered from her childhood wasn't just a dream after all. 𝒖𝒊𝒅 was that very friend, and he's so desperate for her attention that he's even considering forcing her to feel that crushing loneliness once again. Perhaps then, she will finally be forced to cling to him like before. Since she told him to do as he pleased, he's doing just that, and now rumors of the lady's exile to the silver reach border are spreading everywhere. Some whisper she was trying to use the Crimson Order for power, while others assume the Emperor banished her in a rage. The woman they are gossiping about is currently having a private meeting with her father. Stick around. You and I are about to see things at the border get very dangerous. All right, you and I are about to see a princess sent away as nothing more than a puppet. Of course, our show-off emperor insists on a massive grand departure right in front of the palace gates. Every noble and commoner in the capital will watch. Estelle knows better than to argue with the crown. Even when he asks about Lord Martin, she keeps her composure and does not complain. Since the king is faking concern about their broken friendship with Lord Martin, she tells him she will keep in touch through letters. Once she is finally alone, the princess lets her guard down. She goes to speak to 𝒊𝒆 before remembering he is gone. Finding only a maid behind her, she turns away with a heavy heart. Life without her knight feels completely different. Now watch this. Just before she sinks into total despair, an old friend sneaks in. It is Hessen's silver. Estelle is genuinely thrilled to see the Grand Master of the Tower of Truth once again. When he says he is there to report on the Frost Fortress, she hopes for some groundbreaking new results. Unfortunately, Hessen reveals they have found nothing yet. Estelle realizes the poor man is in a tight spot. The king does not care about facts. He just wants a story he can use to tell the public the castle is safe. Seeing the old scholar looking like a wilted plant from all the stress, Estelle starts to feel a bit bad. After all, that mysterious Frost Fortress only appeared in the kingdom because of her. But she has no reason to speak up. In fact, more unrest in the capital actually works in her favor. So she just comforts the scholar by promising to visit the tower and hear more about his research soon. The old scholar is blushing so hard it is almost embarrassing. He looks like a girl in love, but peace never lasts long around her. But of course, peace never lasts long around the princess. Trouble is already on the way. Empress 𝒖𝒊𝒅 arrives to mock Estelle and flaunt that 𝒊𝒆 is now under her command. They pretend not to notice each other. The Empress is heading to see the king and wastes no time taunting Estelle about her exile to Medesha. She puts on a fake act, claiming she will be so lonely once the princess leaves the royal palace. It would be believable if she was not smiling so widely at the princess right now. You and I both know she is just looking for a fight. The Empress is desperate to humiliate Estelle and mistakes Hessen for a simple servant. calling him too old to be useful. She warns Estelle to be more careful about picking her attendants. Knowing the Empress is just trying to be cruel, Estelle calmly reveals the old man is actually a grand scholar. He is the master of the Tower of Truth. Still, Estelle notices something feels off about this whole interaction. Alara has always been bold, but she has never been this reckless. She has changed since that last birthday banquet. Satisfied with her insults, the Empress finally decides to take her leave and move on. Estelle is not hurt by the words, but the fact that Silas did not even look at her once really stings. Despite her own sadness, she still takes a moment to apologize to Hessen for the Empress's rude behavior. The scholar insists everything is fine. He feels the princess's concern is more than he could ever ask for. Deep down, he is actually touched that a royal would apologize to a common-born scholar like himself. Seeing her still looking down, he panics and gives her a special pass that grants her full access to his tower. Now she can visit any time she likes, whether he is there or not. They are both quite pleased. Estelle politely tries to decline, saying she does not deserve such a high-level honor from the tower. But the old scholar insists she is the most fitting person to visit, seeing his pure sincerity. She finally gives in and promises to visit him very soon. The two of them share a rare, peaceful moment. What they do not know is that a jealous demon lord is watching from above, and he is not happy. Estelle has no idea he is fuming. Estelle is completely oblivious to his rage, as she is too busy admiring her new gift from Hessen. Needing to clear her head, she heads to the royal library. It is the only safe haven in this entire palace. Seeing how the librarians treat her differently now is funny to her, but it is also a huge headache. In the past, every time she visited, people would mock her and glare for no reason at all. Now they all bow whenever she walks by, which is just as annoying, but she is not the type to hold a grudge. She heads straight for her favorite hidden spot, tucked away in a quiet, dark corner of the library. And that is where we leave her, finding total peace surrounded by the smell of old paper and her favorite history books. Stick with me, you're about to witness a dangerous game of cat and mouse in the royal library. Nothing but dust, but Alara is certain she definitely saw a dark shadow lurking between the ancient shelves. She scans the room, but her stalker is faster, creeping up right behind her without a sound. Before she can scream, he lunges, pinning her down and nearly giving her a heart attack. Staring at Lord Silas's arrogant smirk, Alara wishes she could just kick him away. She's shocked he's here. Didn't the Empress just return to her private chambers moments ago? The Duke clearly snuck away just to find her, but that doesn't mean Alara has forgiven his recent cold shoulder. She struggles to break free, but he grips her wrists, whispering a warning to stay quiet or risk being caught. Now watch this tension build. Silas mocks her for not being happy to see him, but his eyes are fixed on the necklace she's wearing. Jealousy flares white-hot. Without another word, he pulls her in for a sudden, aggressive kiss. While Alara's head spins, Silas snatches the jewel away. He demands to know why she accepted a gift from Sir Julian. Our poor girl is so overwhelmed by his striking face, she can't even form a coherent sentence to defend herself. Silence only fuels his suspicion that she's planning to flee to the Silent Tower. But Alara isn't a pushover, snapping that it's none of his business. That answer definitely hits a nerve. This time, he grips her necklace with a force that makes her gasp. He ignores her protests to give it back. Instead, the Duke's focus shifts entirely to getting intimate right there in the stacks. Alara's had enough. She shoves him back with everything she has. Silas is stunned, but his burning jealousy is making him lose control. She finally snaps. That necklace is her official pass into the tower, and yes, she's leaving the moment she gets a chance. Silas wants more adult time, but Alara is strictly not in the mood for games. Her reputation is on the line. Hidden or not, they're still in the middle of the royal library. Silas isn't listening. He pulls her into a deep kiss that leaves both of them flushed and breathless when they finally pull apart. You and I both know he's not stopping there. Alara can't believe how shameless this sneaky nobleman actually is. No wonder everyone says making a deal with a devil always leads to a truly miserable ending. Silas leans in, asking if she missed him, but Alara refuses to fall for the seduction of this charming devil. She shoves the hungry man away, smoothing her messy dress while wondering how to return to court. First, she snatches her necklace back. The Duke tries to play dumb, but one look at her stern, serious face tells him the fun's over. He has no choice but to return the token, though he's clearly unwilling. Trying to make amends, he says Vivian is already preparing her gown for the departure ceremony. Alara's eyes go wide at that name. It's been ages since she saw that woman. Vivian always seems to be incredibly busy these days. Alara really wishes she could spend some time with her friend before setting off for the Citadel. Silas acts concerned, asking what she's doing at the library. Resentfully, Alara tells him she just wanted some quiet rest, but someone clearly ruined that plan. She firmly warns Silas not to try any more reckless stunts in this place. She's been coming here since childhood, so these halls are sacred. She glares at the man who almost made her disrespect her sanctuary. But seeing him smile like a completely innocent child, her anger just melts away instantly. Silas asks what she means by a special place. Learning she came here to hide after her mother passed away, he suddenly looks very unhappy. He wants Alara to talk about the precious time they spent together in these very halls when they were both much younger. Under his questioning, she finally admits she used to create imaginary friends to keep her company. Silas is grinning ear to ear now. Alara has no idea why he's so happy. She's convinced he's just mocking her. What Alara doesn't realize is that her imaginary childhood friend was actually Silas. Alara thinks her old imaginary friend is embarrassing, but Silas doesn't find it silly at all. Instead, he wants to hear everything about that friend. Total narcissist, he just wants to hear her praise him. Alara thinks he's acting incredibly strange. Why is this cold, indifferent Duke suddenly so interested in a little girl's story? Either way, she falls right into his trap. Even though her childhood memories are a little bit fuzzy. She remembers imagining an angel, just like the beautiful ones from the fairy tale books she used to read as a child. She can't recall every detail. She doesn't remember any wings, but he was truly the most beautiful person she'd seen. Silas tells her it probably wasn't an angel, and if it was a cruel one for leaving her. Why did she love that angel? Trust me, you and I are about to see this get very complicated. For Estelle, her guardian angel never truly left. She simply grew weary and stopped believing in its existence. Let's see what happens when even an angel feels abandoned, because its charge decided to turn away first. Estelle shrugs it off as mere imagination. Sebastian hides the painful truth from her, choosing to simply nod and agree with her words. But Estelle notices something is wrong. His sudden mood shift and that forced, sorrowful smile tell a different story. She sends him back to the Queen's spire. When he worries, she coldly dismisses him, insisting she can handle herself. Sebastian finally snaps. He calls her stubborn, realizing she has never once listened to a single word he has said. Not as a child, and certainly not now. Estelle is frozen in shock, but before she can demand an explanation, he vanishes into thin air. Looking at the empty space, she feels a pang of regret. He left without even saying a proper goodbye. Back in her chambers, the air feels freezing. She finds herself wishing for the day of the departure rite to finally arrive. She yearns for her man. For some strange reason, she actually misses his icy, cold touch today. It never provided warmth, yet it was her only comfort. Meanwhile, the Queen is busy smashing her entire room. She is spiraling. Even after stealing Sebastian from the princess, his heart and his warmth remain completely out of reach. She is desperate to claim the servant by force, yet the fear of his hatred keeps her paralyzed. Now pay attention, because this is the exact moment a dark, desperate prayer finally gets an answer from the shadows. A figure materializes in the dark. She thinks it is Sebastian at first, but it is actually the treacherous Rowan. When the prince and Alistair arrive, Rowan has already bedded the Queen. He feels zero shame for sleeping with 𝒂𝒊𝒅's lady or being seen by her son, who does not even care for his mother. Arthur is fixated on the news. Estelle might be a divine herald. It sounds impossible, but Rowan swears it is the truth. Besides, Prince Arthur already has a herald by his side, so he should know how to spot one. Arthur is terrified that Rowan knows his darkest secret, but Rowan only cares about the prince's performance at the departure rite. As long as the men follow his lead, everyone will finally walk away with exactly what they desire. Once they leave, Rowan collapses. He is barely handling half the power Sebastian bestowed upon him in secret. His body is failing. He knows he must flee this place before the real Sebastian returns to reclaim his stolen power. He runs straight into 𝑩𝒍𝒂𝒎𝒅. He tries to greet her with a smile, but she greets him first with a massive slap. Total boss move. She watches his cheek burn red without an ounce of pity. He has clearly lost his mind. She demands to know why. They all know it is impossible for any of them to defeat Lord Sebastian. Why go against him? She begs the rogue to snap out of it and give up this suicidal mission. You saw that coming, right? But Rowan reveals something wild. He can actually feel every hidden emotion the High Lord Sebastian harbors for the princess. Everything Sebastian feels, Rowan experiences as if the emotions were his own. That is why his mind is breaking. He is obsessed. He wants the princess so badly it is driving him insane. The hunger is so intense he feels he will die without her. To survive, he will do anything to claim her. He is beyond control. 𝑩𝒍𝒂𝒎𝒅 gives up on these stubborn men and goes to present Estelle with her royal procession gown. Estelle adores the dress. Her genuine praise makes 𝑩𝒍𝒂𝒎𝒅 blush, momentarily softening the heavy mood in the room. But 𝑩𝒍𝒂𝒎𝒅 feels a heavy weight of guilt while looking at this sweet girl. It gets worse when Estelle keeps mentioning Rowan, grateful for the intel he sent. She has no idea he is the enemy. That information was the only reason she was brave enough to suggest traveling to the northern marches. Estelle wants to meet him, but 𝑩𝒍𝒂𝒎𝒅 is determined to keep them apart. She lies and says Rowan is too busy. 𝑩𝒍𝒂𝒎𝒅 can barely contain herself. She warns Estelle to stop meeting with that man immediately. It is the only warning she can offer. She gives her blessing and quickly takes her leave. Lately, Estelle has a new habit. She walks near the Queen's spire, hoping for a glimpse of Sebastian. She searches, but he is nowhere to be found. Lady Alara has been hiding away, so Sebastian has completely vanished from sight. She is lost. 𝑩𝒍𝒂𝒎𝒅's cryptic words are also starting to weigh heavy on her mind. Estelle is so lost in thought that she fails to notice a figure stalking up right behind her. She spins around to find Lord 𝒂𝒊𝒅. His gaze is predatory, looking at her like she is a prize to be devoured. Trust me, you and I can see her fear. She is terrified her secret identity has been finally exposed. Listen, you and I are about to see this princess realize she's totally wrong. Lord Belvoir is acting bizarre today, not arrogant at all, but literally begging Estelle for just a moment of her time. He desperately pleads for a short walk with her. As they stroll, our leading lady notices how terrible he looks. She's genuinely concerned since he was mysteriously absent during the Queen's recent birthday gala. That simple question makes the man completely fall apart. Estelle expects Lord Belvoir to mention the necklace, but instead, he starts ranting about his dark desire for the throne. Estelle is absolutely stunned to hear the Count say this. Even with no one around, saying this inside the palace walls is a massive risk. A smart man like him shouldn't be this reckless. It feels like everyone is losing their minds lately. Meanwhile, the Count just keeps spiraling. He tells her he's drowning in regret. Ever since meeting a mysterious stranger, he hasn't been the same. He's lost his very soul. He wanted power and the princess, sure, but never like this. He never intended to go this far. Desperate, he grabs her hands and begs for her trust. He claims none of this is his fault. It's all because of that shadow man. The guilt is too much, so he came today to warn her. Watch closely, because right before he speaks, a demon suddenly appears. Seeing the child show up, Estelle freezes in shock. But the Count's reaction is even weirder. He straight up bolts. Now Estelle is suspicious. Why would a noble run away so fast from a kid? Something about the boy feels off. She asks if he knows the Count, but the cunning demon just lies through his teeth. He says the man was probably just terrified, like any other fragile human. He calls the princess the strange one here. She must be used to 𝒍𝒊's dark aura, and that's the only reason she doesn't fear demons anymore. Estelle feels a chill looking at him. For a split second, he looks just like the Count did. But the look vanishes so fast, she thinks it's a hallucination. He claims he's only there to wish her safe travels to the borderlands. Estelle shakes off her doubt. Surely he couldn't be that kind of monster. She wants to believe he is actually a good person. She prays he gets what he wants, though his desires seem impossible to reach. He knows it's impossible and should give up, but he just can't stop. He's unable to let go, even knowing it would be better for everyone. Estelle tells him she has faith. If he truly wants it, he can make it happen. He blushes and thanks her for the support. Before vanishing, he promises to always stay by her side, no matter what. He tells her to call him if danger finds her. He will be her protector. Instead of feeling safe, Estelle is terrified. That sinking feeling is back. What danger is he talking about? Meanwhile, a report reaches Lord 𝒍𝒊. The spy mentions the boy's odd behavior, but 𝒍𝒊 just warns her not to do anything stupid. Now, pay attention here. The day of the departure ceremony finally arrives, but Estelle still has no peace of mind. She can't stop worrying about what Lord Belvoir was trying to tell her. She keeps replaying the words he tried to say that afternoon. Despite all her letters, he hasn't sent a single reply back. She decides to ignore the bad thoughts and focus on the grand ceremony starting today. A maid announces the capital has gathered, and Estelle finally steps out into the light. She senses today will be extraordinary, and trust me, she is more right than she knows. Estelle is buzzing with excitement. Finally, she's leaving this palace prison where she has been trapped her entire life. She arrives at the square and sees the entire kingdom waiting for her. As she passes her stepbrother, the villain whispers that he'll drag her lower than a common beggar. She ignores him, a fatal mistake. She keeps walking, facing the cheering crowds who believe she is their savior. The king speaks of the rebellion raging at the borderlands. To stop this uprising, he has personally appointed his own daughter to oversee the royal army's march. He calls her forward to swear the oath. Behind them, Prince Ashkelin is looking absolutely unhinged. The king is just about to name her commander of the realm. Suddenly, Ashkelin steps forward. Just as he was coached, he destroys the entire ceremony. He exposes Estelle's biggest secret to the crowd, the truth about her identity. He tells the world the princess is part of the diver tribe. Estelle is frozen, wondering how he knew. He doesn't stop, revealing that her mother was a diver too. Sending a half-breed like her to the suffering people is an insult. He reminds the king why the diver tribe were such a hunted and sought-after race. Their blood can literally cure any disease known to man. Sending her to war is a waste of such a precious resource. To prove his point, he draws his steel and attacks the princess right then and there. And you and I just witnessed her downfall. As she's injured, her blood hits the ground, releasing a sweet, magical scent that proves her true nature. All right, you and I are diving into a royal nightmare where blood and betrayal take over. He seizes 𝒍𝒊, telling her to prepare for a lifetime in the royal citadel's darkest dungeons. Arthur tells 𝒍𝒊 her new life will be spent trapped forever beneath the palace floorboards. He sneers that she was never fit for a crown and belongs in chains, but 𝒍𝒊 suddenly strikes his hand away. She refuses to surrender. Staring him down with pure defiance, she tells him that is never going to happen. Frustrated, Arthur orders the knights to throw her in the dungeon immediately. As they close in, 𝒍𝒊 shuts her eyes in terror. But the blow never comes. Opening her eyes, she finds a lone knight standing between her and the guards. It is Sir Roland. We are just as shocked as 𝒍𝒊, but there is no time as he yells for her to run. Arthur is fuming to see his most loyal knight turn traitor, but Roland is ready to die protecting the princess. Even with his skill, 𝒍𝒊 knows they are doomed. She is bleeding, and he cannot face an entire army alone. Suddenly, she remembers Silas's promise to always protect her, no matter the cost. Recalling how he told her to call for him in her darkest hour, she screams his name with everything she has. But it is not a human who answers. When the Abyssal Lord appears, the entire courtyard freezes in pure ice. Seeing his beloved covered in blood, Silas is absolutely livid. Alara feels safe now and demands to know what took him so long. He quips that he got tired of playing the humble servant, leaving her annoyed by his typical lack of seriousness. A man in a dark cloak suddenly approaches, and Silas calls out to him by name. Alara is stunned by the name, realizing Silas was right. She finally understands how Arthur learned her deepest secret. It was Victor who betrayed her. Silas thinks Victor was bold to set up such a massive spectacle just for his own gain. But Silas is sorry to ruin the boy's fun. Victor arrogantly claims he knew Silas had limits within the human kingdom. He thought he could act without fear, but he vastly underestimated Silas's true feelings for the princess. Victor suddenly realizes his mistake and asks Silas if he truly intends to break the ancient laws of the land. Silas just laughs. You and I know nobody can stop him, especially once he reminds them who wrote the laws. He calls Victor naive as glowing blue roses erupt from the ground, binding the traitor in thorny vines. Silas turns to Alara, telling her to stay close. Above them, the massive frost fortress begins its terrifying descent from the clouds. The citizens watch in awe until the colossal castle comes crashing down into the very heart of the city. Panic erupts as everyone flees. Silas declares this is the price for failing to recognize their true sovereign. Turning back to his princess, Silas asks her to prove she is not afraid of his power by joining him. Looking up, Alara does not just take his hand. She throws her arms around him in a tight embrace. Silas is thrilled and asks her to rate his grand entrance, claiming he deserves to be called an angel. Too weak from blood loss to argue with the narcissist, Alara faints. Silas immediately leans down to heal her wound with a kiss. In an instant, the injury vanishes. Feeling better, she weakly tells Silas he is definitely no angel. She calls him a demon instead. Silas watches his brave girl lose consciousness just as an angry voice calls his name. It is Victor, furious that Silas is interfering so heavily with the affairs of the mortal world. Without hesitation, Silas tightens the vines around Victor's throat, warning him to show some respect to his superior. The younger demon must learn his place. Silas can end his life in a heartbeat. Meanwhile, Arthur still has no clue who he is facing. The prince lunges forward, demanding that Silas release the princess at once. His own soldiers are wiser and hold him back. Silas openly mocks Arthur, exposing the prince's pathetic obsession with Alara. He tells Arthur he is too late because Alara belongs to him now. Every single part of her is his. Suddenly, the disgraced queen mother steps forward to finally make her presence known to the crowd. She desperately begs Silas not to abandon her, but he does not even spare her a single glance. The palace guards are forced to restrain both mother and son. This royal family is a complete disaster. Even the king is speechless. The truth finally hits him. Silas is the azurite devil, the terrifying master of the frost fortress. Silas offers a parting gift, asking the king if he ever doubted his son truly shared his royal blood. Leaving the king in a state of pure confusion, Silas departs. Soon, rumors of the day's events spread like wildfire through the kingdom. The azurite devil had returned, and you and I both know the empire will never be the same again. All right, you and I are about to see something wild. He just leveled the high citadel right in front of the whole town square. Now everyone knows the sapphire-eyed wraith isn't just some fairy tale. He's real, and he's terrifying. Soon, the news of the wraith's arrival completely drowned out all the whispers about Alara being a Valyrian. Instead, the entire Frostlands were buzzing with stories about the ancient shadow who vanished into the blizzard with the young princess. But the story took a strange turn. At first, everyone claimed the wraith made a dark pact with the princess, bringing absolute ruin to the kingdom because of his master. Before long, it morphed into a scandalous tale of forbidden love between a royal and a monster. Not everyone is buying it, though. For instance, the scholars of the Arcanum think it's a total disgrace to spread such trashy gossip about the lord of the castle. Besides, how could a princess be snatched away like that? Heston warns his students to shut up and keep packing their bags. They are out of time. The other scholars are staring at the sky, terrified of the heavy snowfall. Since that fortress of frost descended, the snow hasn't stopped for 2 days straight. There's no way they can travel in this. Now pay attention here. The Arcanum tried to study that fortress, but it's hidden behind a mist so thick, you can't see your hand. Anyone who tries to enter just ends up walking in circles, losing their mind until they find themselves right back where they started. The scholars are sweating over the missing princess. They're dying to know if her silent bodyguard was actually the legendary Wraith. They're all pestering Heston, since he's the only one who actually stood face to face with the monster. Heston says it's complicated. Sebastian served in the royal court for years, and not a single person ever suspected a thing. It gets creepier. Now that he's gone, not one person in the entire palace can even remember his name. The whole court is paralyzed with fear. It's like everyone's memories were wiped clean or rewritten by some dark power. Heston just barks at his students to stop with the questions and keep moving. The helpers don't get why they're fleeing. They'd rather stay in the capital and study the mysterious magic of the ice castle. They don't want to leave such a discovery behind, but Heston warns them to stay out of royal business. The moment the snow breaks, they are heading back to the Arcanum. If they stay here any longer, they're dead. He can't stop thinking about the king's orders. After telling Heston to fix the castle problem, the king commanded him to perform a secret blood rite ceremony. Heston was absolutely floored by this. But the king demanded the test be done in total silence. Recalling this now, Heston is even more desperate to get as far away as possible. Remembering Sebastian's cryptic questions, he finally reaches a chilling conclusion. Anyone linked to that wraith is destined for a brutal end. He knows a bloodbath is about to erupt within the palace walls. If he wants to live, he has to escape the capital tonight. It looks like the carnage has already started. Deep under the citadel in a dark dungeon, a man is being lashed. It's Lord Rowan. Okay, I know what you're thinking, but while the city burns, our main couple isn't worried at all. Instead, they're just relaxing on a rooftop, looking down at the entire kingdom stretched out before them. Their only real concern, planning their next move. Alara is still determined to reach the border of the Meridia lands. She wants to gather allies there and reclaim her home, and she's not backing down. She also wants to see the countryside. She wants to see what the province of Harton is like, to know the land and the people she's meant to lead. The ever-loyal Sebastian praises her heart, saying she'll be a truly great queen one day. Alara isn't so sure, since she basically signed a contract with a demon. Sebastian tells her he knew someone like her once. That person paid a heavy price for their dreams and is still remembered as a wise, just ruler today. He sees no reason Alara can't do the same, so she makes a vow. Looking out over the kingdom, she knows she won't be seeing the high citadel or the fortress for a long time. But before they vanish, there's just one person she needs to see for the very last time. Chained up in that dark pit, Lord Rowan is being broken by the crown prince. The mad prince demands to know where Alara is hiding. Since the night won't crack, the prince just hurls insults and storms out in a fit of rage. Left alone, Rowan is exhausted. He's ready to quit until he hears his mother's voice in his head. She begged him to never surrender and to keep his pride as a Valyrian, no matter what. She was a powerful seer for their tribe before she passed. Before she died, she told her son to find the princess and deliver a vital message. Rowan kept that vow, and trust me, we're about to see what happened when he arrived. Stick with me, we're starting with Rowan, a man haunted by the death of the last Valyrius princess, Ilana. He ignored Princess Alara's suffering as a child, lying to himself that his silence was actually protecting her. He even blamed her for making a pact with the demon, fully aware that only pure despair forced her hand. The truth was simple. He couldn't face his own pathetic powerlessness, which is why he finally stood by her during the departure ceremony. Desperate to atone for his sins, his path eventually led him deep into a dark, forgotten underground chamber. Rowan felt this was a fitting death for a man like him. He never expected anyone to tell him he was wrong, but looking up, he saw the princess begging him to live. He wondered why she would ever return for him, but she simply claimed she wanted to repay her debt since he was a fellow rift diver. Besides, she was all alone now. The Heartland nobles were never people she could ever truly call her family. For an orphan like her, just knowing one person from her past remained was enough to feel like family. Now she's back to ask him a question, remembering how he once claimed he wanted nothing to do with her. Pay attention here, this reveal changes everything. Once freed from his chains, Rowan confesses that Prince Alistair already knew his true identity as a Valyrian. Alara's breath hitches in shock as she notices strange, needle-like puncture marks covering Rowan's battered body. Those were scars from forced blood transfusions performed over a very long period of time. It turns out the Crown Prince didn't promote Rowan because he was a legendary knight, but because he had been using the poor man as his own personal blood bank for years. That was the secret behind Prince Alistair's rapid recovery. He was stealing Rowan's blood. Rowan admits he was only trying to protect her. He feared that if they grew too close, the prince, who already knew his secret, might grow suspicious of the princess too, leading him to discover she was actually a rift diver. But in the end, Alistair found out anyway. Alara couldn't find the words to explain, but she had one final request. She asked if he was willing to leave the palace and run away with her. Stunned, Rowan quickly agrees, vowing to serve as her personal knight for as long as she will have him. And so, the three of them began their journey across the empire. A week after fleeing the capital, they finally reached the Northreach region. Behind them, the capital was already plastered with wanted posters for Rowan as the search intensified. They had to get as far from the capital as they possibly could. Currently camping out in the wild, Alara is overjoyed to finally see the places she once only read about in books. She's dying to see Northreach's famous frozen lake, though she denies it when Silas points out how excited she looks. She claims she's just curious about their land management, insisting it has absolutely nothing to do with that beautiful frozen lake. I know what you're thinking, she's totally caught. She's blushing hard, wondering if Silas knew she wanted to come here all along. Rowan ruins the mood by reminding her they have to ride non-stop for 10 days just to reach the Northreach border. Alara says she'll be fine as long as Silas is there. What a romantic. Meanwhile, inside a nearby inn, two men are caught in a loud shouting match. One man is desperate to share a story he heard, while the other just wants the guy to leave him alone. The storyteller persists, but before he can start, three mysterious figures draped in long cloaks walk into the tavern. It is none other than the princess and her two bodyguards. The three order plenty of food and drinks, making the innkeeper very happy. He couldn't care less that they're all covered up, as long as he's making a profit from them. The man hasn't had any customers in a long time. The storyteller continues his tale, claiming a massive ice castle descended to the earth, but that wasn't the only shocking part. Apparently, a demon from that castle appeared right in the capital. Nobody believes him, but he swears it's the absolute truth. The other patrons want to know why a demon would suddenly do something so completely bizarre. He calls them unromantic, claiming the demon fell for the princess and became a humble servant to her love. The other customers are forced to endure this mushy story. But wait, where did these rose petals suddenly come from? The man isn't finished yet and starts describing the intense, passionate love story between the royal princess and her demon. Hearing this, the actual princess almost chokes on her water as she listens to the man's wild imagination. She looks over at Silas, who seems quite pleased to hear this romantic version of events. He asks if the gossip is bothering her and even offers to silence the men before they eat, while Alara is practically dying from sheer anxiety. She begs the demon lord to just stay quiet and behave. Without his formal duties, He's definitely becoming much bolder. Elara just wants to avoid causing any unnecessary trouble. Then she hears him say the princess must have eloped with the demon. Well, you and I know that's not exactly a lie. Sir Rowan is the only one offended, claiming they are dragging Lady Estelle's name and honor through the mud. She tells him to relax, not caring about the rumors. Their food arrives, and after securing a room, they finally start eating. Sir Rowan continues to worry, terrified that such a modest tavern meal is unfit for a princess of her standing. Let's pause for a second. This hits different once you realize Estelle actually spent years starving before meeting Silas. There were times she ate nothing but stale scraps. She tries to eat, but a certain demon just keeps staring. Then it hits her, Silas does not eat human food. At best, he might only pretend to take a few bites. He watches her and tells her to take her time. He is enjoying the storyteller's tale and has no intention of leaving just yet. Right on cue, the storyteller reaches the climax. A tale about a noble princess and a demon falling in love. Hearing that, Estelle almost chokes on her dinner. If you want to see what happens next, drop a comment for part 2. You and I just witnessed a wild start to this journey. Trust me, it only gets crazier from here.